Okay, as a testament to week six's complexity and the Fusion tab here, one of the reasons I left this for last, but I'm glad I did this. This was a interesting thing. So we had to start this whole thing off with the introduction video that was less than 3 minutes long by finding the database that we downloaded in order to do everything else on here. So after about an hour of fooling around with it between the versions of it, they were doing it in 15, I'm doing it in 18.4. Here's what I figured out finally. So in order to get to their database, which we've downloaded, we have to go and click on Project Library because they don't use the word database anymore. And rather than creating a database, we have to connect to an existing one. So we do that. And before we name it, we got to find it. So we come over here and we click on Browse. And I have it up in my on my desktop in my OBS file because that's where I keep things uh, when I'm working on them. That way, just a fast thing. So we're here at the OBS file, and I found the resolved database. So we click on that, and according to the instructions, we get to call this one basic. BASICS, basics. Then you click on connect. So you see the green thing up here? This tells me that the basics library is upgradable and it's not going to do anything with this data that they've gone through great trouble to construct for us until we upgrade it. So we click on that or we click down here, either way, and we can say upgrade. Now, the first thing I notice while it's doing its thing here, are we doing our thing here? Yeah, I guess we're doing our thing here. We got our little circle, blue circle of progress here. Um, there we go. We are upgraded. So one of the things we have to immediately do here, and it didn't have all the videos that, uh, like for example, you don't see videos 1 or 2 right here. So we're all using 3 now, I guess. I don't know. But so just to make sure that everything was kosher, I opened up one of these videos that were said media offline. And I don't know why we still have it going. There we go. It's gone. So let's just open this for fun and relive our ability to find things that need to be found. So we come up here and you can do this from the edit tab and find a little chain link here, or you can do this from uh, the quick edit tab, whatever you call that thing. I don't even remember what we're calling this thing. I never use it. So, oh, the cut tab, sure. Quick cut tab. So we can come up here to the relink media file, over to the let's tell it where it's at file. Remember I said everything's in OBS. So rather than fawn through here and look for individual files, I click on the main file, just click select folder, and it always finds things lickety split, snappity snap. So here we are on the that looks to me like the LA floodway. So I think we got our first video done just to get into the darn thing. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Okay, here we are back here, week 6, FX, DaVinci Fusion, and we're over here at lesson 2. And what they're talking about here is Resolve Fusion integration. So when he made these videos, this was Resolve 15. We're now on 18. I'm not even sure that there's a freestanding version of Fusion available. But there were some nice things that he did talk about here. And so he started off talking about he brought in video 2, and we'll talk about how to do that in the next video, but how everything linked together. So we're here. We'd opened up video 2 and made sure we had our links done just like you saw in the last video. And then we came over here to the edit video or the cut page, either way, and made sure everything was linked up like we see up here. And then we're over here onto the Fusion page. One of the things he wanted us to see was that this was the real dimensions of this video. Whereas if we come back here into one of these guys and we come over and say, let's have a look at what the settings, the project manager forces it into being because we told it to, is right here. So when we're here in the edit tab or the cut tabs, we are, or the any other tab other than Fusion, we are at the dimensions that we told it to be. When we're here, however, the tools that we assign to it are in its original format. So the first thing here is you see the little guy down here with one dark light and one white light, excuse me. If we highlighted this and we hit 1 or 2 or 1 or 2, that's just telling us what monitor we're seeing this on. We can do that over here too. If we come over here and we say 1, this is where it starts in, the media in, and then the media out, and then the yellow line, when we add other tools into it, will represent a node network or a node tree. So when we tell it to add some text, for example, or anything along those lines there, that is just like a layer, I guess you would say, um, in After Effects, but it's much easier to use, and all this will become more prevalent. In fact, it's just exactly like when we were doing the color correcting. Everything is node based for this, and once you get over the original psychology of it, it's super simple to use. Um, that's about it for this one. I'm kind of do these one at a time until I'm more confident about what's going on, where I can have two or three of them in my head at a time and save some of your time. All right, thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one. Okay, we're back. We're over here on lesson 3, importing and interpreting footage. It's pretty much as you might think. Uh, so I'm here in video 3, and you've seen the process of coming to that stage of things here last time around. So when we come from the Fusion page over here to the media page over here, we see our famously and irritating "Why can't you find me" red faces. So let's click on edit real quick and find their location. I think we can just go up one, and that's much better to do that. Okay, so we are here now, and that's all together, and it's all found. So uh, things are as you might think they are. Let's get rid of the timeline and the footage that's down below. We can highlight both of those. Hit the delete key, and now we are starting from scratch here in video 3. So something I learned here, up here in the corner, when we click on how we look at things up here, we have to tell it that it's a sequence. The auto thing didn't work that great. When the auto is on, this sees this model A as a bunch of pictures, a bunch of PNGs. Okay. And so if you try, there's nothing you can do that I've tried that you can do to get them in as a sequence, short of coming over here and clicking on the 3 dots with the media storage clicked. Hit the 3 dots, hit the frame storage display mode. Auto doesn't work. At least it didn't work for me. Then I come down to the sequence mode, and then magically, boom, it's all in a. They've taken all those individual PNGs, and all 39 of them, and turned them into a clip. So in order to get back to where we were, let's go ahead and give that clip a right click and say up here and say create new time using selected clips. You guys have seen me do that 100 times, I'm sure. And we'll come over here and say create. And voila, we're back where we started. This was quite a thing to figure out. There, I'm finding there's a lot of a time lag between their version of DaVinci 15 and my version of DaVinci 18.4 or whatever I'm on. Anyway, so worth noting, if you see me a little frustrated, that's just me working out the time difference between things. Okay, we'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Okay, so we're over here on to lesson 4, constructing tool networks. Let's come over here to our bin, and let's put up video 4. There we go, video 4. And we see that our timeline is everything's going the way it's supposed to be going. So let's just go right over here to the Fusion tab and click on that. And remember, we talked about we had media in and media out. And when we right click here and come up here and say add tool, right clicking is a very powerful thing in the Fusion tab, by the way, but add tool brings you to just about all the goodies that you can do in this. And let's put in a blur just a standard old blur. And you'll note that it didn't do anything. It's still from media in to media out. It hasn't connected to anything. So there's a couple of ways we can do this. We can disconnect here and then nothing's happening. We don't have any network. If you don't have any pictures, you don't have any network happening. You don't have any connectivity. So we can come over here to our little box and stretch our little pipe out and clink. Then come over here to this little box and stretch our little pipe out and go clink. And so we have put a tool in place here. What I'm doing here is we can do orthogonal pipes. So when we move stuff, it does something like that. And then around also, we should be able to options, pipes always visible, show hidden pipes, show grid. Somewhere around here, I'll worry about it later, I guess, but somewhere around here is the thing that will snap it to a grid. But anyway, so here we are with blur. You can come over here to the inspector. It automatically comes up when we brought that tool in, and it will come up again if we highlight the tool back in. So you see what I did there? I highlighted media out, in which case it still had the inspector in place, but just had the controls for media out. And I highlighted blur. It just brought up our controls for media for that tool of blur. And then we can choose with the blur different kinds of blurs here, Gaussian, whatever. And we can also choose blur size here. So that leads to the next lesson of, oh, well, let me do one more thing here before I move on to the next thing. So let's come over here and say delete tool. Insert tool, delete. So we're back here to this thing then, and we'll come over here and put her in the front too. So she's in the front on this side. Here that little indicator tells which screen that representation is in. So here's another quick and easy way to do it. You see, when I mouse over this line here, the direction line, it turned blue. So I can right click on that, come right up, say blur, blur, and it snaps it right in place for me. And but it didn't keep the what we had changed around on it last time around. So that's all there really is to adding a tool. And that's my preferred method, just to right click on it on the line here. Always, we can put it pretty much anywhere we want. This also, there's different types of inputs here. A mask input, or it's just standard old input here. And we'll get to the mask inputs in a little bit. And then the boxes mean image out, image in. And so this is just kind of a handy way of seeing your work for everything you've done. Okay, so on to this over here, and I'm just going to keep this going because it all kind of plays together. So lesson 4 is where we came from. We're going into lesson 5 now, and that's just playing things back. So especially with a blur, it's mathematically expensive, meaning that it takes a lot of horsepower, a lot of computer horsepower to run these blurry images. So if I came up here and I have this activated, the media out tool, and we can see it in here, and I clicked on the play or I hit the toolbar, notice I have the repeat thing happening here. I think, and I didn't do that. It just did it by itself. And I go down here to look at the playback time. So since this was done at 24 frames a minute, it's not really playing back, even though it's all said and done here. I mean, there's some things that you can do. You, for example, can stop playing. Whatever you do, don't try to make adjustments while the thing's playing. You could come over here if you wanted and highlight this and come up and right click on this, excuse me, and generate some optimized media. Let's see how that's going to work out for us. So it's going to take a minute. Then we'll come back over here and let's hit our play bar again. And that did it. That said, though, too, there are some important things to remember about optimized media. That if you got to remember to delete it when you're done, otherwise you're going to wind up with a full hard disk in a New York second. I happen to have a 4 terabyte hard drive on this laptop. Still, optimized media, when you optimize an entire bin of something, for example, it gets big and fast. So watch that. So the next thing we can do here to make this work better is we can come up here to playback, okay? And we can make sure we're in render cache, we're in smart rendering, okay? And I just broke my own rule there. I'm glad it didn't do much because it ordinarily would crash on me. Let me clear that. Come up here to playback again, and we can say proxy handling. No, we're not saying proxy handling. What are we saying here? Let's come down here. This is a hidden bar here. I don't know why it's hidden. We can also take it out of high quality too if we wanted to. Every time something moves in there, there's a motion blur that's already on. If we want to have proxy on, we can have a proxy on, I believe, and that's in playback. Proxy handling for proxies. Somewhere in here is a place that we can change that around a little bit. For proxies. There we go. Timeline proxy resolution. So right now we're on full. So we're seeing every pixel of every part of every bit of this image here. So we can come back over here to and see just half the pixels or a quarter of them. So when we go to half, that speeds it up by half, and then by to a quarter, it'll speed it up by 75%. We're already hitting our mark at 24 frames a second. I just wanted to say it out loud that that is there for us to do. In fact, I'm going to click that proxy here. And let's go to, real quick, over here to Project Manager and find out. Not what I wanted to do, sorry. What I'm trying to find out right now is where does the optimized media get put at? Product Manager, Project Settings. Okay, let's Master Settings. Optimize media resolution, choose automatically. Working folders, proxy generation location, desktop, proxy media, okay. Gallery stills right there in the same place pretty much. So I've had in the past, maybe they've fixed it since then. I've had in the past this happened where it just dropped a bunch of stuff right on the desktop and I didn't know what it was. And yeah. Color management, general options. Capture and playback. Okay, well, I'm going to let that go for now. So let's go and look and cancel out of here. Let's go and look at what else we got to talk about here. So using multiple clips and rendering, and I think we're going to have to change over Let's come down to our little house and change over to video 6 for that. This is mainly what they're making the point of, is a final render, and the fact that you can render everything or you can render little bits, pieces of stuff, and the fact that Fusion turns up individually in clips is the main part of that story. So every time you see me paging through here, not finding what I'm looking for real easy, you'll remember my, I don't see video 6 in here at all. Let's try this. Search 06. It's not in there. So weird. Well, let's see if video 5 has what we need, or maybe video 7. If video 7 has what we need. Come over here to that. Yes, we know. It does not have what we need. We're looking for something with multiple clips just to pop in there for real quick. Back down and check out our little house. Video 6. Gosh. Okay, so there we go. See everything now. Let's come over here and take care of our offline problem. Okay, so when we move, you'll note that as we move, we're in the quick cut tab here, and we move our, let's go to the editing tab here just because it's easier to see what's happening. So when we're in here, this is the video that's being seen. When we're in here, even though this is still part of the timeline, or part of the playhead rather, that the video that's on top is what gets switched to. And as we move on, these are not on top, so that gets switched right back to that. So think of this, whoever's on top is king of the hill. That's how I remember it. At any rate, so we're over here and we switch over to Fusion. And so we see this clip, that clip in Fusion with both of its media in and outs on it. Okay, so then we come back here to the edit tab. We move over here to this. Whoops, let me just square that away. Move over here to the edit tab, and I put this one on top. But it's, even though the playhead is running through both clips, it'll be this one in here that it sees. And how can we prove that? Well, let's just let's stick something in there in the meantime. Let's add a blur tool just to stick in there. And then we'll come back. And we'll come over here. And then we'll come back to the Fusion thing. No blur tool. Okay? Over here, no blur tool. See? Then we come back up to this guy here. Guess what? There's going to be in there. It's going to be a blur tool. Let's get rid of that blur tool. It's not doing us any good. So when we come over to Saber, it's finally time to turn these things into an MPEG or a QuickTime or whatever we want to do with it. I think we've kind of covered this before, but there's a couple of things we can do. Let's make this a little bit bigger just so we can kind of get an idea. First is the thing we can do. We can render the entire timeline. Okay. And you've seen me do that a dozen times. The other thing that they were wanting to talk about is rendering the in-out range. I never do that just because I always get caught out on it with it. And how that does, anyway, you pick up some little line, you right click, you say mark in, you move over here, you say mark out, and there you've made yourself a bit of a timeline, or a bit of a piece out of the entire timeline that, when put in render per in and out range, there you have it. That's all there is to it. Okay. When you say entire timeline, there you are. Okay, so that's pretty much, what is that? That's a couple of them, isn't it? That is 4, 5, and 6. Down and done. Upcoming 7, 8, 9, and 10. These are a little bit easier to get through than I thought they were going to be. I'm overjoyed about that. And I'm really digging how things are laid out. I only have a couple of little odd bits and pieces that are not up to my good standards for a classroom, but you know what? No big deal. We're getting through things just fine. All right. So thanks a lot. We'll see you in the next one. Okay. So we're back. Woohoo! And we're going to do 7 and 8, lessons 7 and 8. Basically, more than one tool. How can we adjust those? Some of how you've already seen that. How tools live on the grid. And then we're going to go down the list and kind of repeat about the types of tools that he gave us briefly. And by briefly, I mean that he didn't go through things very completely. So remember when I told you you can come down here and put your mouse button right there, right click, and let's put up a tool. What do we want to do? Let's put up a different kind of blur, a defocus kind of blur. Maybe let's defocus her a little bit. This is part of the tools thing over here where there's all kinds of stuff to do. And each tool is probably a little bit different than the last. Uh, I want to play around with this just for a second with you to see what they meant by bloom level. Not sure that I understand. If they think that they understand what bloom level means, bloom threshold. Okay, so you see these little dots here? If I remember right, you can just touch those. So she's now super sharp. So just for fun, on these lens types here, let's watch this candle here. We're going to change the lens type to a pentagon, and then we're going to move this over here. And then we can hold the control key down and zoom in on that, and supposedly that should be a pentagon. Interesting. There's the regular dot. There's the defocused. Okay, that's kind of cool. Then of course we can zoom back out, or you could just come here and come down and say fit, and then we're back where we started. Okay, so there's defocus. Lots of other stuff down there. We can come over here on settings too. There's some other stuff to be uh, talked about with this, but he didn't, so I won't. And let's do another one just for fun. So let's add, I didn't mean to unconnect that. To grid. We're snapping our tools around here a little bit. So let's come over here and right click on this and say add tool. Let's go over to color, and then down to color corrector. So this was a good one for what is available under the inspector. And you can call inspector one of the pillars, I guess, of DaVinci Resolve. What are some of the pillars? The inspector has a way of being able to change just about everything. You can click on just about any kind of anything that can imagine that you could, being adjusted in any one of the tabs down here, and click on inspector, and the inspector is probably going to want to give you something to say about it. Okay, so with our color contractor over here, okay, so that's a good question. What's another pillar? The things that our mouse is on right now, nodes. We see nodes here in the Fusion tab. Arguably, these two tabs, one of the two most valuable tabs here for me, is the ability to do special effects and the ability to correct color. So super important for me. I like Fairlight. I'm trying to learn how to use it better, but that's another fantasy altogether. Okay, so let's go over here to color corrector and horse around with this for a second. So what's wrong with this picture? Well, let's look at the options. Interesting. Ranges. I'm going to be keen to learn how to use that. So this is a pretty flat picture here. So can we screw around with the hue at all? Ew, ew, ew. All right, so click on our resetter. What can we do with her? Maybe we can make her click on the reset. Excuse me. What if we add a little green to this? That's kind of cool. Hmm. All right. Well, that sounds like something fun for another day, but that's what they mean by the ability to uh, um, look at things in the inspector and what they mean about adjusting a tool. Okay, so last thing here. Let's speaking of tools, let's look at our tools here. So we come up here, right click over to add a tool, and he kind of came down here. He said, yeah, we looked at blurs and different types of blurs. Color, the color corrector. A composite is when you want to stack things, you know. If you say like you had a piece of footage that you wanted some uh, text on top of or something that you'd created on top of it. Effects, highlights, hotspots. He did not talk about that. He did talk about film, about putting different kinds of film effects on things, you know, like a film grain from the old days when we watched 35 millimeter film. Filters, didn't talk about that. He did talk about generators and how you could use a background for a color layer. And noise, I've seen that done with a generator too. Noise is kind of a cool thing. It makes it look like fog if you wanted it to. In and out means that you can load something in on the loader, like another picture or clip if you had to, and save that. I think that might actually even render it out. Different LUTs, lookup tables, cube analyzers. I don't know anything about that yet. Different masks. He was talking about spline masks and mats. This was where might use for chroma key, green screen, or blue screen isolation of things. Uh, Metadata, we all know what that is. Miscellaneous. That looks like a trip for another day. Optical flow, repair frame. Paint. I guess if you wanted to change colors on something, I'm not sure how that works. Particles. Uh, Now there's something about particle creation here. I'm not sure how to use that yet. Again, I like to save the tools for when we actually ran across them. The only reason I'm bringing this up here, oh, in this list here of Resolve FX stuff, you only see that with the paid edition of this. The paid edition of this is 299 bucks, which is, let me think here, 3 months worth of Premiere payments. So all of these here are they appear when you get, and there are all kinds of goodies in the goodie paid for box. Shape tools, stereo tools. This is something if you're going to do something in a stereoscopic image. Different trackers for doing types of camera trackers and whatnot. Transforms. We've kind of been to this a little bit as well. Yeah. Virtual reality stuff. Messed around with that for a little bit. That was nightmarish. It's not there yet. I don't know why people keep trying to force it. And warp stuff, you know, I mean, all of this stuff we've seen in one place or another here on one of the millions of Adobe programs we've played with, or uh, just through editing here. I am a relatively decent uh, After Effects guy, and I cannot wait to get good with this program, just to get the ease of use going here for myself. Okay, so that is 7 and 8 done, kids, and we'll be back with 8 and 9, and that'll be it for today. Thanks a lot for watching with me, as always, and I'll see you in just a minute. All right. Okay, so here we are already on lesson 9. This is really moving along quite quickly here, and this lesson is creating light effects. With the hedge of my bet saying that this is just an introduction to, not the master class on. So, at any rate, with that said, here let's pop over to video 8 we're on now, and we have, what do we have? Arrange tools. Do we have our two grid snapped on? And we got our everything else seems to be in place. Yep, we got our pipe being laid correctly. Okay, so there's let's just do our first tool and jump in since I'm blathering. Our first tool is glow. See if I can remember where glow lives. Glow lives under blur, and let's maybe we move everything up here. One of these two I know does it. No, I guess not. Okay. So here we are in the glow settings here, and that got pretty heavy duty pretty fast. So what can we change over here in the inspector to? This guy keeps saying to just screw around with things, and he's right, man. You just got to kind of play with it. So what does this do? This looks like it creates the density of the fog, if there is such a thing here. And then let's put that back and move this guy around a little bit. And that guy looks like it is the brightness of the fog. So so the more fog, and you wanted to have a lot of fog, and then it'll be a little darker fog. I see. I understand that. Okay. One of the possible uses for it at any rate. And maybe we could try blending the two a little bit here. Oh, that's nice. Where there must be some kind of blotched pixel size here where the blend mode brings that out. At any rate, don't forget here on the top of these, we have the master reset button for all this stuff here. Let's put the original over here on one so we have it to compare to. So that's just glow out of the box. And without clipping mode. Without having anything added to it, this one here, this picture here is just glow out of the box as it would be shown. So let's keep that going here. So what's the next one? Light rays, and this one is actually, if I remember right, this one was actually one of those fancy FX things that you can only get with the full version. Light rays, there it is. So that's a mess. What can we do with light rays that'll calm that down a little bit? Let's start with the threshold. Almost always the threshold kind of means, oh my God, let's tone it down a little bit. So also here, with the positions of this, you can change if you see like there's a window over here and we wanted to try and figure out how we could move this so it looks like the light is coming from that side. And let's maybe make the length a little bit less. And the brightness, turn the brightness down so we just have a touch. I don't know, I don't like that. Get it out of her face. Maybe let's call the window on the other side, huh? Can you see those moving there? This is something I like to do. I grab a hold of my mouse button and or my mouse and I wiggle it around to see what's happening there. Just looks like I can change the color. There's the length again. There's the softness again. Okay, cool. Aperture diffraction. Diffraction? Diffraction. Aperture diffraction. I think is another one of those super duper effects thing. Now, aperture diffraction, if I remember right, I wish we should actually do this aperture diffraction uh, as a separate thing. Uh, let's get rid of that first off. Clink. And then let's put aperture diffraction over here just for fun. Because I want to see aperture diffraction. Because what it is really a lens thing. You know, if you had some problems or things that you knew were going on with your lens that you wanted to use, where is it? There we go. Aperture diffraction. Okay, so let's move that up there too. And to change this here, we can just click on this little arrow right there. This is what we're looking at with the aperture diffraction out of the box. Okay, and so let's not be looking at any of this stuff at all right now. We're just looking at this. So there's a whole host of things that we can do here. So one of the things that, like, when you look at water with your camera, you get these little sparkles, and I think that you can change the amount of sparkles you get, whether or how they sparkle. One of these is you can rotate the sparkles. Blade curvature. What they mean by blade curvature is the actual blades that are in your lens that make up the aperture of the lens. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Aperture size. I don't see what that's doing, if anything, you know. Hmm. Hexagon, heptagon. There we go. That's what I was talking about. So a lot of the really higher end lenses will have more gills or blades in their aperture, depending upon how you want to put it. So a heptagon or an octagon, heptagon must be 7, hex is 6, penta is 5. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so what else can we show? I want to do the other one separately too. It's more fun to figure things out separately and then maybe try to figure them out together. Highlights, highlights. That's going to be another blur thing, maybe, or maybe it's a color thing. Is it a blur thing? Highlight. It's an effect thing. Okay, so let's put in number 2 on that and connect it. Can I connect it? Guess I'm out of spots here to use. So, oh look, I do have them connected. What a mess that is. Outstanding. So we are viewing this here in the second thing. And this is just highlights, and there isn't a lot to change or mess around with on it, it looks like. Nope, that's because it's not highlighted. That was funny. Okay, so a curve of a highlight does what? Ooh, so just the candles. Okay, so what's the length of a highlight do then? Aha. You know where that might look, an effect like this might look good? Maybe with a glow and an angle. Let's try with this. See what the number of points. There's that point number again. And the angle of it, very interesting. Okay, I'm going to put him up here and do one more. What should we do? Rays? Let's see what the old regular rays do. That's an effect, isn't it? Yeah. Let's Connect regular rays up and show just the regular rays. As an experiment, I want to delete some of these things and see if it changes what I'm looking at. And it didn't. So it truly was what we were looking at here on the media out, or when we had that on. This was just truly what we were looking at and nothing else. So that's good to know. So again, this pretty much the same thing. The decay, we'll bring it back in a little bit, make it go away a touch, make how heavy weight wise. Exposure, I don't know if that's an overall exposure or yeah, that's just the effect. And then the threshold of the effect. I like the word threshold as being synonymized with good taste. Turn your threshold down, it'll always turn out better. Okay, so that's kind of just the category of light here for tools. And this was a quick overview of that. And this was almost exactly the same. I did use some notes on this just to make sure that I was relaying what the instructor did. So very interesting. What I see happening here is the same thing that happened with me on After Effects, is that we can look at this and talk about it all day long, but until I sit and spend hours going through this stuff or being reminded during some project that something exists, like the raise thing or the aperture diffusion thing. Yeah, all that doesn't mean anything unless you use it. And so you just got to practice with it. Anyway, I think what's coming up next is going to be film effects, and then that's going to be lesson 10. We're finishing 9 now, and we're going to call it a day after that. Thanks for watching. See you in a sec. So here we are on lesson 10, applying film and video effects. And I've got it all set up so you didn't have to watch me go through the pain of dragging around with all the nodes again. So what we're going to talk about on number 10 is just most of these are effects that emulate film damage or picture damage of one form or another. And one thing I learned today is, remember last time around when I had one of these effects set off aside and I had it all split off? Well, these are black now because they are turned off. So we can go through and turn it on and kind of debut the effect just to make sure it's in the right place here. I think that's pretty good. Turn it off. Turn it on. Yeah, that's definitely doing its thing here. So the first one is film grain. Now, grain is caused by the silver iodide crystals that are suspended in the gelatin on the film being of higher or lower quality. The more of them, the less grain, the less of them, the more grain, or the larger of them, the more grain. And they all have different reactions to different lighting situations. Film stock, I mean, that's just the one word that you can use to talk about grain and lighting. And with all of these guys here, you can change many versions of this where what kind of what you see, how big the size is. For example, if I turn the size up, that would be an example of a really crappy film stock. But it didn't get all that great. That was just one of those things about film that we accepted until digital photography got better. So that said, moving on to this grain here, this grain is what happens when we try to take video um, in lower light, for example. So we can change the power on this one as well. First, we're going to have to get it shining to the right. There we go. Change the power of this as well. So, I mean, you may have seen this on your cameras. I know I've got myself boxed in where I was trying to do something manual with one of my cameras and just did have lights with me to get it done, and it came back grainy later. I did spend a couple $100 and I have a degraining solution on my computer, but I don't know how much more. It was only a Premiere Pro thing, and if I ever got in that problem again, I don't know what I would do. I guess maybe blow up Premiere Pro again. I don't know. So at any rate, so we can change here the red difference and all that stuff because it's video. So we're RGB here, red, green, whatever. Grain size again. Uh, and when we play this too, it's important to notice maybe when we turn it up a little bit with some power here and maybe some grain spacing here. Let's play this and just see. I mean, obviously not full speed ahead here, but we can see that the grains are not a steady thing, just like if we were playing it on the other one. I think that's kind of interesting. Okay, so let's turn this one off and move on to the next one. The next one is JPEG damage. And how can we think of JPEG damage? What could I say to really explain that well? If you're over 40 and you owned a flip phone in the 90s that had a camera on it, all the pictures that that camera produced were crap compared to what we do today. I mean, they were little jewels back then, but I never personally cared for them because I shot with a real nice camera all the time. But uh, yeah, I mean, the camera phone, I didn't think it was at the time, but it was really quite the invention. I thought to myself, in their right mind is ever going to use a camera phone? I mean, talk about missing the bus really hugely on that thing. So let's screw around with this one. Let's turn up or turn down the quality. I don't know if I'm seeing much here. Am I seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing? Resolution. I'm not seeing it what I'm supposed to be seeing here because I'm not turned on. There we go. That's about right. So this is what it thinks quality is with damage. Okay. And as we see that as pixels roll in and it starts to pixelate together, we all saw that in the early 90s on our AOL accounts when we tried to watch some kind of video. It would just gush out there. And we can change or improve we can, that actually might not be a bad wipe. And of course, if there's something to be said for a uh, a keyframe right next to that, all this stuff is keyframeable. Looks like you can change the block aspect ratio. That's kind of cool. Got to be patient for it though. Wait for it to do its thing. At any rate, there's that one. Let's turn that off, and then we're now back at our nice picture. And this is film grain. This is out of the FX Super Duper Black Magic box, which is don't forget to turn it on, CJ. Which is cool because that means it's a really high end product. So one of the things that before anything gets done down here, you can come up and tell it what kind of film that you want it to emulate. So 16 millimeter film. I mean, grandma's old. I think I had 100D 8 millimeter camera myself when I was a little kid and played around quite a bit with that. We on here? I think you got everything turned on. Okay. Hmm. Nothing is changing there. Okay. I'm going to pause this a second and work this out. Be right back. Okay, for some reason, I'm just not able to get this to work. I've tried everything here. Tried changing cameras. If it is changing, I don't see it. Oh, maybe it is changing a little bit now that I've had a hissy fit about it. So pick your film that you want to see here. Looks like there's some opacity to be done here. Maybe I'm just not being patient with it enough and giving it a chance to change. There's some serious math involved with this. A lot of the parameters, just like the other stuff, we can change too. When we were changing the video on that, red, blue, green, shadows might be an interesting thing to play around with. Hmm. This is a really subtle. thing here, and it's really difficult for me to tell the difference. So I'm going to move on over here and see if we can get anything going over here. Okay, so the not the last one, there's some other stuff in here that you can do, but you can do most of it from here, which is film damage. If you look over here, you can see the line scratches here coming through. You can see some of the grain moving around. There's some blur that you can change here. And then you can touch your little guy there. So there's some temperature shift too, if you wanted to CPA it a little bit. I'm trying to only do one thing at a time just so we can actually learn from it. So down here, there's some other, add dirt was one of these things. So you can add the dirt density, how much you see, how much dust you would see from it showing time and time again, and the size of the flakes that are on there. Dirt blur. That's interesting. So you can kind of blur that out too. That's cool. And the scratches, you can, how many scratches you get, where they appear, how fast they're moving, where they come from, and you can have is up to 5 scratches it would appear. Uh, so what else did we see done? Tool, add tool, color. What I was seeing here, I think I'm gonna, if it doesn't come up right away, I'm gonna give it a pass. Transform, texture, analog damage, that's interesting. Okay, well, something that might work with this that I'm not going to mess around with because this is getting to be a long video and it's towards the end of the day is I think that this is one of the coolest effects I've ever seen, and I think this might work really well with some vignetting in with it. Uh, and there are some vignette effects that work far better than this. Um, because that's something you would definitely see uh, like out of an old 8mm camera or something like that from film that's been laying around, is that the corners of it start to get darkened in and whatnot. Anyway, that's that for now. I'm going to call it a day. And thank you for your patience for this long video. And we'll see you tomorrow with lesson 11. Looking forward to it. Thanks again. Okay, everybody, and welcome back. It's Tuesday, and we got through lessons 1 through 10 yesterday. I was pretty surprised we got through things that well. Today, we're on 11 through 15, only because I've already looked at these videos, and they're a little bit more complex than the simplicity of 1 through 10. So the first one of these, 11, is what we're going to talk about first, and that's working in color space. So what I thought I'd do first is just define the word color space, because that's something he doesn't do in the videos that I watched. So what's a color space? A color space is a range of colors on a spectrum that can be interpreted and displayed on a visual plane. So that's a nice way of saying that there is a whole bunch of colors picked out of a spectrum. In my case, 709 of them, and which is best used for television uploads for stuff like that. Definitely not something complex like a cinematic, or like a cinematic projector or something like that, digital projector. So that said, let's go over here and have a look at where we are today. We are here, and I've got most of this set up already. So when he was doing his spiel about color space, he basically told us where everything was and but not really anything about it. So I'm going to give you my spiel on color space, and that's what I learned last week about what to use as the output for DaVinci Resolve 18 in its specific color. So let's go down here to project settings, and let's go over here to color management. As you can see, I've already been poking around over here. So somehow this has changed from just in a moment ago when I changed this. So the first thing that it comes stock with is DaVinci uh, YRGB. They have you change the guy that taught the color correction and color grading class last week recommends that you do this, and here's why. DaVinci color managed because it seems to be able to figure out what camera you're using and puts on the right changes to do for that camera. I'm not quite sure how that works. That's way beyond my scope of reason. But then he says just simply use the SDR Rec 709, and then it comes up as the Rec 709 is the output space. Processing mode is SDR Rec 709, and then the output is what it's going to be output in. The color space that is used for that comes in Rec 709 scene and Rec 709 a couple other things, but he says use Rec 709A. Okay, he gave me an explanation for it. Again, it's how a camera is working at the molecular level and far too myopic for me at this stage in my life. Next week we'll look at some color spacing videos, some videos about color space, and maybe I can teach myself some more out of that. But for now, the most important thing is the A here on that. And I actually experimented with this, outputting it in Rec 709A. Um, Everything looks good even after you have rendered it. But once you upload it to a platform somehow, if it doesn't say, if it's not the Rec 709 file, 709A file, sorry, then it seems to get washed out a little bit. Now, like I said, I actually uploaded 10 seconds of video just to play around with it in regular 709, then in 709A, and yes, I could see a difference, but that might be due to the fact that I've been playing around with color correction now for the last week, very, very in depth, and might be a little bit more sensitive to how things look, which is the point of all these classes, is to be able to recognize a mistake or recognize something that looks good when you see it. Um, that said, uh, is everybody going to see this? No, probably not. Some of the horrifying mistakes that I see on YouTube and things like that, yet still the creator is wildly successful. Yeah, it's not that big of a thing, and it kind of reminds me of the Harrison Ford Mark Hamill quote from the original Star Wars movie, where Mark Hamill is saying, when we got out of the trash compactor scene, my hair should have been wet, because half of that trash compactor was filled with some kind of horrifying liquid. And the Harrison Ford quote was, "Boy, if they're looking at your hair, we're in big trouble." So that's pretty much my take on color correction and color grading for YouTube. At any rate, thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one. And again, appreciate you watching. See you in a bit. Okay, and so we're back at it here again. And so apparently, and obviously, this is going to be one of the more important skills to do. So we're going to be doing some merges of inputs. So think of that like putting text over a bit of footage or a graphic or something like that. So let's move down here, and I am going to start from scratch with this because I had a little bit of trouble uh, getting my head around it at first, but after I did it a couple times, it's not going to hurt to do it again, and it's probably a little bit more fun to see it from scratch too. So you'll note that when I came from over here to over here, from edit or cut to over here, that I have done this enough times where I was just grabbing all the nodes and deleting them and starting from scratch. So let's start from scratch. And we're going to start, come up here to add a tool. And that's going to be the first media in node. And then I'm going to come over here on this side, add a tool, in and out. That'll be our media out tool. And so the goal of this, just to demonstrate, was to make a custom glow effect. So he started out with a color correction node, color correction, and let's bring our video up on that side. We're going to move our color correction over here just for cleanliness, and then connect it. Okay, that's the one out, median out to the median in. Okay, nothing to it. So let's come over here and we're going to turn the gain up, overexpose it, blow it out a little bit. Oh, we should be able to see that, shouldn't we? So let's come over here and say right view. Instead of blowing it out, you can see as I move this over here that we're just, and it got a little grainy too, didn't it? Grainier anyway, not great footage. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to add a blur to this. I wouldn't have known how to do this, but this was a neat little new thing to learn. And we're going to connect it, and we're going to bring our view over here and bring our blur size up just to about 25 or so. Okay, or yeah, that's about what his looked like. So now we got the ghost over here. We got our original footage over here, represented by original footage over here, and what's happening over here with our two tools where we've used to modify things. So let's merge them. So we're going to come up and we're going to add a tool. We're going to come over here to composite. Click our merge thing, and we now have a new node, except this was a little bit different node if you check it out. It has two inputs. The first input that you see on the top here is green, and it's a foreground. Think of it like being the top layer, and the yellow one is the background, just like you saw over here. It's just now that. And so that's where we're going to start, is we're going to connect our original picture here to the background, okay? And then it's gonna, I guess it didn't, that's cool. And then we're gonna connect our blur over here to the foreground. So let's grab a hold of that, bring it over. There we go. And you notice it kind of swap-a-doodled around there. Okay, so what's coming out of the merge node now is what's up here, okay? So you remember both of our screens, the little black dot on the left is the left screen, and the little white dot on the right is the right screen over here. Okay, so whatever screen is active for that node is white. So how can we tame this down a little bit? That's no good. That's just exactly what we were just seeing a minute ago, right? So there's two ways to do that. So with the merge node highlighted with the orange border around it, we will simply come over here to blend and turn it down a little bit. Okay. Maybe up just a touch, just to keep that ghostly thing going. And then the other way was with apply mode. There's a couple of things that you can do, a screen application. The apply mode is DaVinci Ease for filter. Okay, dissolve. I don't know. I think that this is better down here, so I'm just going to leave it that way. And in the spirit of merging things, let's try one more merge and then we'll call it good for the day. Okay, so let's try some text. Okay. And so we're going to come up here and we're going to add a tool. We're going to generator some text over here in the text window. Don't you love how whenever you've got an open node, it's just everything's right there and ready to go for it? Okay, so we're going to have to look at the text here. Let's keep our where it's going open. Maybe make the text a little bit bigger. All right, that's cool. And then grab a hold of it and bring it over here to the corner. So these things are X and Y axis, and then the little dotted circle around it is rotation of it. But that's another story altogether. And so now we're going to get ourselves out another merge tool, composite, merge. Okay, so remember the green one is the one in front, foreground. You can just hover over it and it'll tell you. So that's where we want our text to go, is into the foreground. And we want the rest of our stuff to come, that's already been taken care of, to come out and go into the background, okay? So we just do that, clip. Then we come over here to this merge. Oop. Then we can see we got it, our thing on there now. Very nice. We can come over and move that around if we want. Highlight our text. Move it down a little bit if we like. There we go. Cool, huh? Okay, so here we are, all set and ready to go. Now, at any given moment, we can come back and make adjustments. If we want to lighten her up, for example, we can come back, highlight the merge, first merge, and drop the blend a little bit and make it a little bit more clear. But, you know, we'll still have our nice kind of foggy effect in there. I kind of like that, actually. So over to our original median, let's have a look to see what we've done. So this is our image in, and now we're moving it to our image out, and we're transferring that over to there. So this now is what we're seeing here is in here with the little corresponding light. And that's pretty much it for that, for the merge. We've merged a couple of things, and I'm starting to think that that's, yeah, that's going to be a handy thing here. At any rate, that's it for now. That's all you get for $5, as they say, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Okay, welcome back. We are still after it here today, and we're over here on lesson 13, domains and transforming. And what they mean by that is they have retitled, because they're an Australian company, a domain to these guys is a resolution of a piece of video. So let's kind of go over here and check it out. And let me get my face out of the way here. So it's kind of important that we see the whole thing here. So up here in the upper right-hand corner, this is the resolution of this is that, and this is also the color space that it's shot in. So a float 32 color space means that it's basically limitless for everything that we know of here, in my mind, at any rate. And then, of course, the size, we all understand that what a resolution is. And they're interchanging the word domain for resolution. I think that might be an Australian thing, being that Blackmagic is an Australian company. So let's go along and talk about what we're going to do here today. And that is the transformation. It's basically up there, you know, when we were up in Premiere Pro, and that's the upper left-hand corner, and you can move the video around here and resize, rescale the video and all that. So that's what we're just going to jump through today real quick. So let's hit it up and start with over here to transform, into the transform tool, which brings up this nice little up arrow, side arrow, which means that you can grab a hold of this and slide this up nicely and leave it on its axis, or the axis here, and slide it to the side without having to worry about it going up and down, or grab it in the middle and you can do whatever you want with it. And then, of course, it has the little transform angle. What they mean by that is it's rotating, and I'm just highlighting the red circle, dotted circle here, and moving it around. We can come back over here as always and reset everything back to where it was, and then we can show you how we can move, you know, the center thing here. We just grab the number, move it to the right or left, or type it in. You can kind of do whatever you want on that as well. Type it into whatever you like. Now, that said, when we were showing the dotted line circle around here, they have a roller down here called angle. What they really mean by angle is rotation. So we'll give her a little, I don't know if you noticed that it highlights that when we made it around here. That's going to wind up being a handy thing for the next thing we're going to talk about in the next video called keyframing. So let's reframe that and get rid of all this back to normal. Canvas edges, he didn't really cover this, but we will cover it soon. Filter method linear. Okay, just curious. All right, so let's move on to our next guy here, and let's turn transform off. And so the next thing that we were talking about was scaling. and domains. And so let's come up here to add tool and come down here to transform. And then we're going to come up to crop. So you notice I've turned transform up and we're over here to crop. And crop is a pretty simple thing here. Let me maybe make this a little more working room. There we go. Okay, so over here in crop, here you notice we're in 3K right now. We can come over here to crop and say 1920 by 1080. Okay, and it reduces the size of the resolution or domain depending upon which side of the equator you feel like being on today. And then we can go up to our X and Y offset and reframe this as we see fit. So, I mean, that's a nice frame there. Rule of thirds, a little bit of the buzz coming in. Any rate, simple enough, okay? The next thing on the list of things to learn, you notice that when I hit reset after the crop there, that we went back up to this original domain. So let's turn crop off and go over here. Right click, add tool, back to transform, and we're going to do a resize this time. Resize and crop are almost the same thing, but resize is when we're just taking this picture as it lies and changing the domain / resolution on it. So we're going to get a 1920 by 1080 resolution version of this same thing that we're staring at now. So that's a simple method of, I just like to highlight that 1920, enter, 1080, enter. And there you have it. It's no reframing, fooling around necessary. So that's just, if that suits you, then that's a perfect way to do that without having to fiddle around with the axes. XSI, I don't know. I don't know. So let's go back and hit the reset and turn this off. And we got one more little thing to play with here. And just like in Premiere Pro, this is called DVR, I believe. DVE. Okay, that was close. So DVE, and you'll notice that our transform thing is back here. And basically, it's a very similar deal. We're moving it around, up, down, sideways, whatever you want to do with it. Okay. But in addition, with DVE1, DVE, we have the power to change this two-dimensional image into a two-dimensional image floating in a 3D space. So, for example, if we take the x-axis and we rotate that a little bit, let's maybe tilt her away from us a bit just for fun. Take the y-axis and turn it in on its side a little bit, and you get the idea of how those 3 axes work and all that stuff. There's nothing to it. Once again, back to hitting the reset button, and we are done with doing all the transform stuff. It's just as basic as can be. Maybe a little easier, maybe a little tougher. I think in the long run, it'll be a little easier. I like the heads-up graphic stuff, and I like the ability to type it in or move it around or whatever you want. Now, in preparations for the next video, remember when I said every time there's a diamond here next to these things, you see over here on the right side? Okay, that's a keyframe. And don't forget, I'm the keyframe kid. I started with 3D cameras, so yeah, 360 cameras makes you either you do the keyframes on that or you don't use those cameras at all. So I'm really comfortable with that, and I can't wait to share it with you on the next video. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Okay, we're back. We're going to be over here with keyframing, and we're going to do 2 in 1 here because they're both basically just extensions of the same thing. Keyframing and then animating the curves, smoothing things out a little bit. So let's get after it. Okay. So we're here on video 14, and we're in the crop mode. So I'm going ahead and set everything up. I'm better get my face out of here, because it's important we see the entire picture this time. So we got the crop mode up, and then we got all the things that we do in the crop over here on the right-hand side. And so let's get stuff set up. First off, we're going to want to change I guess I should say the goal of this. We're going to change the resolution size to just regular HD, and then we're going to reposition this picture when it's in HD, and then we're going to animate it over into a kind of a nice finished centered zone from the ugly spot that it winds up in to begin with. So let's go ahead and say 1920 by 1080, and that brings us to here in this kind of ugly little spot. And these little lines over here are where our playhead is currently, okay? And that's important because an animation is two things. It's the position of what the camera, that's the position of the camera on the video that you're seeing, or the position of the video you're seeing in relation to the viewer, however you want to look at it. And then the second part of that is time. So when we start here in this position at stage 1, we will come over here to X offset and say animate, and Y offset and say animate. And what that allows us to do over just clicking on the diamonds here, which set a keyframe a piece, is that allows us to move it around by hand a little bit. In this case, I'm not going to move it around by hand. I'm just going to move it around X and Y individually, because in the next side of this, there's going to be an opportunity to smooth things out. So if I make a kind of a nifty little move right now, that's just on the X, and then the next one will be just with the Y, it'll be very robotic. And then when we see the curves corrected, it'll smooth out really nicely, and hopefully it'll wind up being a nice camera movement. So let's move down here to, I don't know, a third of the way through. Let's grab a hold of that. Come on. Come on. Maybe we can just click on it. There we go. Click on it. So we're here at frame 10 out of about 40 frames. So we're down to this now, and so let's bring her down a little bit as far as we can. Okay. See, we don't want that showing. So let's bring her down to there. And that'll be the first keyframe. Okay. So let's move over here to 20. And let's move her over to the side. There. Okay. And then let's move her, click on 30. And we'll move it back up a touch. That's the nice frame there we were looking for. And that. Let's play that real quick and see what it looks like. Okay, that doesn't. See, we bounced too hard down on the middle one there. But I think we can fix that with the, and maybe that's suspicious. I might have to redo this one, but we should be able to, when we go to the next part of this, we should be able to fix that. So that'll be interesting. So let's go up to here and this, and look at the keyframes. Excuse me, look at the keyframes tool. We're going to move her up just a touch so we can get a better look at that stuff. Okay, so each of these represents each one of the tools that are in there, media 1, and then media in and media out. And then so what we want to look at is the crop, okay? And the X offset and the Y offset, and we can scoot this over just a touch. And let's click on this. And so each one of these here, you can see where this dropped here out of context. This is the Y offset and how it moves along. Here's the keyframe for that. Here's the keyframe for that, because we only moved the Ys on that. And here's the X and that was the side to side. Okay, so we can move these around, and if you'll recall, with the more spacing between keyframes, so what I wanted to do is why I only put 3 in, is I wanted to space these out. I'm going to move this over to here on 40, and I'm going to grab a hold of this one and move that back. I don't know why they're not letting me. Come on. Move these individually. Come on, guys. Okay, I'm going to pause this real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, so this is a little bit fiddly. So we want to make sure that it's highlighted first in yellow, and then grab a hold of it, and we're going to move it over to about halfway. And we're going to move this one over to about halfway too. And then we're going to turn that one yellow and then move this one all the way to the end. Then we should have about an even time frame between everything. So if we come up here and we play this, it will seem smoother just because of the space that we've created here. All it's doing really is moving a little bit slower. Okay, so that's how we can use keyframes. You can add keyframes here. It's not a great idea to do that here, but it is possible. So that means that we're going to turn keyframes off now, and we're going to come over here and look at the spline editor. And again, you don't see anything when you come right into it. You have to tell it that you'd like to see some things now, please. And you also want to come up here and say, let's show me what everything's been done just with the first 40 frames here. We haven't done anything outside of that. So here we're starting at the 0 frame. That's our point in space here, or point where we started at the beginning, and then we moved X and Y down together. Now let's move over here, move our play, and figure out where we dropped too low. See, we're starting to drop too low here. So let's bring that keyframe down just a little bit and see if that fixes that. Not yet, it doesn't. Actually, you know what I'm doing? I'm messing with the wrong keyframe there. So there that fixes that. That was the Y keyframe that needed fixing. Okay, so let's give it a quick play here and see if we got that fixed nicely. All right, let's, at the end of here, let's take this frame and bring it up just a touch, just so it has something to move on. And you can always put a keyframe in too. So like that, and just make sure that she's kind of where we want her. Nice. Okay, let's come back here and put all this in the one frame. So the next thing to know about this on the curves here is that we've just done a lot of correction. So, but it's still rough. When we look at it, it's still very robotic. You know, we hit this again here. It plays all the way through now, but ping, ping, ping. Yeah, it's just really jerky. So let's put the stop to this right now. Bring our playhead back, get it out of the way, and come over here and click on the first one. Now the Bezier guides here should look very familiar to us. What are we trying to accomplish? Well, we're going to grab one side of this and see if we can't kind of smooth things out a little bit here. Let's grab the other side too and do that. Same thing with this guy down here. We're going to bring this one up. Oh, come on. Really fiddly. Then bring this guy up a little bit too. Now, you see when I grabbed the second one here, it acted a little bit seesaw-ish, where it kind of wanted to center it out there nicely. You know, we can't clip out of the way, and it did. It's pretty nice. So let's come on down the line here and do one that's not quite so one-sided. So let's get a smooth on this one here. So you can kind of bring these out a little bit more and get a more heavy smooth on it. Let's see if that. Okay, you see what it's doing up here, the green line here? 'Cause even though we're over there, it's still kind of rendering out. Let's move our lines back in here. That's the last line of the video. Yeah. And this guy too. These both land on a kind of a nice center. Remember when we centered the other one? That's kind of what I'm looking for here. Come on. There we go. That's pretty nice. So once again, we're going to use this to kind of sneak up on it a little bit. Check on the other ones here. Maybe smooth that out some too. Check on this guy here. Can we smooth this out a little bit? Yeah. All right, now let's play it. Very cool. So it's smooth. It's still, I mean, would I play around with this until I made a really nice camera movement? Absolutely, I would. But that for now certainly gives us an idea of what everything does and where it's at. And that's the point of this. And that will be that for now. And we'll see you in the next one, which is going to be about doing masks. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you watching. Okay, welcome back. We are over here on lesson 16. We're going to be doing some masking, which in my opinion is probably some of the uh, best and most used tools in all of Fusion and all of After Effects, or any kind of program like that. Being able to mask things and fix some mistakes on a set. You know, you can mask things out, you know, little things, weird things left on a set that you don't want, like a watch on somebody's wrist if you're filming a medieval movie or something along those lines. But at any rate, this is kind of a cool thing. So let me bring this up and get my mug out of here. And we're going to get after it. We're doing some masking here. And let's start off by bringing in a new tool. Come up here to Add Tool, over to Mask. And if we look at this, there's two types of mask basically that are available to us through this side of things. There's Luma masks, which is like a bitmap, a mask paint, or a color range. And that might be handy for example, maybe you want to mask out the skin tones on something and be able to fix the skin tones. Always a handy thing. And then you can get that in line with the graphics to go with that. So that's one version of that. Here's the other version, is just basically a geometrical thing. We're going to be using B-spline, which is kind of like a pen. But as you can look down there and see the other stuff, you can use an ellipse, a polygon, a rectangle, whatever you want to use. I mean, it's there. So let's hook on B-spline. And let me zoom in on this guy's head a little bit and maybe bring it down a touch. There we go. And I'm going to make a pentagon around his head. If you notice, as I'm doing this, it's adding a curve in. Got to close it to make it useful. And what's cool about this is once you've done this kind of thing here, and it can be pretty much whatever you want, you can change each individual one of these points that you drew. Or if you wanted to, for example, you wanted to change 2 points, you can box over them like that and change both of those guys. So you're getting kind of a semi-roundy thing going on here. And I'm going to make that just a little bit bigger than him because that's going to come in handy for the next thing too. So I'm going to move this over to, and I'm going to back out of here just so that we can kind of see what's going on a little bit more. So let's take this over here on the mask tool and hook it up over to the mask arrow on our median one end. And you can see that that is now separated what we maxed from the main body of the video. So how can that be handy? Well, this could be handy if you were to, from there, here, go on to something else and merge in with another background, for instance, or something like that, which we're going to do here in a minute. But first, let's uncouple these two guys, and we're going to move the mask over here and leaving that going. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to add some blur on the main line there. And you can kind of see a little bit that his face got we haven't even hooked him up yet, and his face got a little blurry. That's a weird glitch. Okay, so we have the blur in, I believe. Let me see if it's doing its thing here. Yep, it sure is. So here, when it blurs out hard like that, I think it's kind of funny that whenever we're watching some weird movie or Dateline or some dumb thing like that, the harder the line is on the blur, the more bad the guy's supposed to be. You know, when they make it a point to tell you that this is a thing. Yeah. So how can we soften that if we wanted to do this for a good guy, for example? So there's a couple of things we can do. If we come up back here to the spline thing, there's, like I pointed out earlier, there's a bunch of other things that we can change on that. The first of which, and we can just click off on the side here if we wanted to get rid of the pentagon around his head so we can just see what's happening. It still is controlling it because we can still see that that's up here with the B-spline logo or B-spline text. So let's soften that just a little bit just to see what that does. That's kind of cool. So if we harden that back up here, then we can better show the other one. And that's the border width, which we can just flat make the our edit there, whatever you want to call it, our mask would be the word for that, wouldn't it? Duh. Bigger or smaller too. So that's that. And then the next time around, there's going to be some tracking and some other cool stuff where we will be able to see him move, and this mask will follow along. But for now, let's decouple these two, and we're going to get rid of blur here. Okay, delete him. And let's decouple this too. So we have B-spline, and remember I was talking about, let's do something with this B-spline here that we have the mask done with this guy. So let's add a merge. We'll come up here over to composite, down to merge. And where are we going to go with merge? We're going to go with out to B-spline and down here to the mask in, which is a blue arrow. Can't say that enough. Okay, so did that do anything? No, it didn't do a darn thing. So let's try this. Let's try coming up to add a tool over here to generator and then try background. Okay. And let's just make a colored background and we'll call it maroon. Say okay. And then we'll come out of background and down here, I think that if we come into foreground, we should. Maybe I'm not doing this. Okay, so there's that. I just had this working a minute ago. I'm going to pause this real quick and figure it out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so as I'm going through all kinds of changes, trying to figure out what I've done wrong here, can you figure this out real quick? Well, I finally figured it out. It's I didn't have a picture. I had everything all set up, but the only thing I didn't have was the original shot in. So we hooked that up to the foreground. The background's hooked into the color maroon is hooked into the background, obviously. And then our spline is hooked into the mask thing. So there we have it. And we can come over here and do some blending or whatever you want to do here, however much you want. And so that's 3 ways that we can um, uh, screw around with a mask for the first time. And I don't know that I've done such a great job with it, but uh, I feel comfortable with it, especially if I can troubleshoot it and take a second to figure things out anyway. Okay, so we'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. All right, and we're back with lesson 17, doing a little easy, simple rotoscoping. So let me pop over here to our clip that's running, and let me get my big mug out of the way here. And so the idea of this is if you notice that this whole thing is shaking just a little bit. And so I'm going to come up over here and I'm going to tint this window, and then I'm going to make the tint of the window work with the movement of the entire clip, okay? So first off, let's stop this and let's get it over here on the move our playhead over to home. I guess I could have just hit the home button. And we'll start by making another mask. Come up here to add a tool. Over here to mask, wherever we got to, under M for mask. We used a spline before, but since we have these nice square edges, we could use either a rectangle or a polygon. I'm choosing the polygon because if you really look at these, they're not square when they get over to the corners of things. They're more of a trapezoid. And doing a good mark on this makes rotoscoping a lot easier. Spending a little bit of time now goes a long way. So let's zoom in, maybe a little too far, bring it down where we can see what's happening here. And you'll note once again that on my polygon tool, my cursor has turned into a crosshair. So let's start here in the upper left corner. Boom, first one. Do the second one. And I'm trying to my best to keep my crosshair at the uh, convergence of the window panes. Okay. Then we'll when it shows our little circle there, that means we're good to close. And you can take these and these little handles here and move them around, and just like we did for the curves and whatnot, we've got a pretty square thing here, so I don't think I want to mess around with it too much. Okay, so let's scoot polygon over a little bit. Let's come down here and add another tool that's in line. Go up to color and brightness and contrast. And connect the two. Boom. And then come over here to polygon, excuse me, brightness and contrast. Come over here to brightness, contrast. Let's drop our gain a little bit here. And just put a little tint on this window. Let's go 05 just because that's an easy number to remember. We'll just type it in. Screw it. Okay, 05, easy number to remember. I do that with colors too. When I'm working out colors and I want to put an RGB code in there, I usually do it in round numbers just so that it's something I can duplicate out of my mind later. All right, so let's play this real quick and see where we are with everything and how it looks. Okay, not so great. Oh, way out of the way there. Okay, good. I'm glad we got a good one to work on here. So let's stop this. Let's go home. Home, 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 or just drag it home. And looking at this up close here gives us a much better way uh, to correct things. I mean, if you drew it back, you'd still see it, but you wouldn't see it as much and be able to get as much detail on this. So let's kind of just take our playhead and go down. Up, see where it's getting out of the way there. So there's our first one. So we're going to come over here and say animate. Should have just animated back to the first one, but it's the same thing. We will bring this guy up just a touch and this guy up just a touch. Move our playhead down the road a little bit more. See, we're starting to kind of drop out there on the bottom. Let's bring those in here so that doesn't come down out of the window pane. See it's starting to come down again. Here. Here. And we can square this up here. Square that up there a little bit. Coming on here. And you see that left behind our little animation mark there, just to be sure. Never hurts to check on those. So what I'm looking for here is it's just not letting any light in, and it kind of doesn't overrun the window frame with the darkness of the window tint here. And then every time I stop and change things using that animate thing out of the drop menu, automatically drops a keyframe for me, so I don't have to go over and click on it each time. Let's bring these up here a little bit again. Maybe go back there. Okay, here you see on frame 43, it really wants to slip off the left side of the window there. That was probably our biggest mistake. Starting to come off again. Maybe come over on this side a little bit here, just clean that up so we don't have it spilling over in the other window. Okay, so let's give it a play while we're close in. Here, I'm going to deselect the polygon. Let's give it a quick play here. Okay, so that's that. And now let's give it a play at a distance where it would actually be viewed at. Okay. See, that melds in pretty decent. I mean, I probably could have done a little bit better job just if I spent more time on it. It's not letting any light in. It's not being obvious. And if your attention was at the guy doing the clean and jerk here, it would probably be okay. Now, that said, here's another quick thing that happened during the class, and I thought this was worth mentioning. Let's come over here and do another mask. Add tool, mask. Let's just call this a rectangle. We'll manipulate our rectangle a little bit. Then we're going to put our rectangle up over here, kind of. Okay, so then watch this. So then we connect our rectangle that we just put up over here to the polygon. Boom, instant other darked out lens. So if you look at the flow of things here, here's our last rectangle that we just put up. Here's our polygon, and then down to the rightness, and then out to the media. So this is our chain of events, our network here, just to, in case that wasn't closed. And it was just as simple as just putting one more little thing in. I don't know how it's going to play. It might require some little bit of dolling up there. You see that's letting some light in. I'd have to go back and fix that. But you guys get the idea for sure that we have officially rotoscoped a little bit. And I think the key takeaway with rotoscoping is, yes, it is important. And more so than tracking, you get a chance to be really detailed and accurate about it. So that's kind of my take on things. And we will see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. All right, we're back and we're over here on masking for color grading, lesson 18. And yeah, so this whole thing is about not that we're color grading in the in the Fusion tab so much as we are setting things up to be graded, color graded elsewhere. So the idea of this is, okay, so we're here in the Fusion tab. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to isolate the bridge here in a very clever way. And then we're going to slip over here to the color grading tab and color grade one specific portion of this original spot over here. And so I'm going to get my face out of here. My face out of here. Yeah. It'd be just the computer only here. We need to be able to see all this other stuff here. So let's start here by realizing that we need to keep this whole portion over here, this unadulterated. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to add a media out. I'm going to put him over here. Then we're going to come over here and add a media in. Okay. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to add a mask. And we're going to make that a polygon mask. And bear with me a second. It's just going to take me a second to kind of come through here and get the bridge separated. I'll just kind of do this as quickly as I possibly can. Okay, good. Don't forget to put the control button down when you move some of these individual spline tools around a bit. Okay. These do take a little bit of practice, so if you've spent a lot of time with Photoshop or something like that, you probably have a good idea how well this goes. Okay, so that's looking pretty good here. So let's go ahead and connect this guy, whoops, and connect this guy up over here. And then we're going to connect media 2 to media 1. Oops. Media in to media out, rather. And now you see this has turned green, so we have a positive mask on here. May not be the greatest in the world, but it'll work for our purposes. So the next thing we do from here is once we have our two separate deals, meaning that media in 1 and media out 1 are the whole thing unadulterated. Media in 2 and media out 2 are just the bridge. Okay, so I mean, if we went over here to it and hit A on here, you'd see that separation, or you should see that separation. But anyway, for now, let's go over here to the color correction side of things, and this is very clever how they did this. So the first thing we need to do is we need to add a new source. So add source, and you'll see up here that this one says next one and this one will say 2, but don't be afraid of it. It really is the second one over there that we just did. So let's go ahead and add a node, which is a corrector node. Whoops. And we'll put him underneath. And then we'll hook our corrector node up over for both RGB and the alpha channel. And then we're going to unhook this guy here. And we're going to come over and add another node, which is a layer mixer, just to put everything together. Oops. And to keep it neat and tidy for us. So over here, you'll note that this is highlighted. So, and remember that this is supposedly just a bridge, probably as seen down here by an external key. And we're gonna, on this guy, we're gonna raise his grain and put a little pink tone on him. Okay, and then we're just gonna come over here and hook it up to the out. We're gonna hook it up to the out, boing. How cool is that? Hey, that wasn't even too bad of a cut on that bridge there either. So could this be handy for things? Yeah. I don't know that the pink bridge was the answer, but it certainly is kind of fun. So the next thing is here is I need to get all this undone here because the next thing I'm going to teach you is, or that I've learned that I'm going to share with you. Delete node, delete node, delete node. Come on. Well, bring him back over here. Come on. Come on. How about that? There we go. Just, I don't know why I didn't do that to begin with. Just reset everything. So let's come over here to the Fusion tab and clear all that out. Boom. And so we're back to where we started pretty much. And so this was kind of slick here. So we have two of these guys here. Well, we do now. How about that? So let's put this one here and this one here. Oh, is our snap on? No, let's get this to snap where it's supposed to be snapping. There we go. Okay, and then so the next thing is we're going to come over here and we're going to lay this our playhead in the middle because when you remember we were talking about this before, that when you come over here to Fusion, whatever your playhead is on the topmost part is the part where it is in here now in the Fusion tab. So just as something quick and easy here, let's make another tool mask. Let's make a triangle. Good enough. Let's hook our triangle up over here. And let's add a tool, add some color, color corrector. Let's make this pink too, just for fun. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we're going to go back over here to the edit tab. And so now we're on this, we see that this has put our mask over this, and we proved that because we've got the color on it. And so here's the cool thing is whatever's black in here is alpha channel. And so we can move this back over here, bring our playhead on. And now we have another composite here with our alpha channel as background showing through here on video 1. And then what we corrected and masked up here, I shouldn't say corrected, I should say graded and masked up here is on that. So that's the, I don't know if you call that the poor man's version of this, but certainly a handy thing if you're just going to hang around in the edit tab. Not my cup of tea personally. I like Fusion and I like the color correction, and I'm really enjoying this. So on those two notes, that's it for today. Wednesday, March 15th. We are halfway through the week, and we are also halfway through all of our things here, our lessons. Let's bring that back up and bring my shiny little face back in here. So we're here. We need to be down here by Saturday so we can get this all put together and delivered. And then next week I'm going to pick out a couple more Fusion things that aren't the terrible long list like this to do, just to practice, to understand some more. We were talking about some of the light masks and things like that, and yeah. Anyway, cool stuff. I'm blathering. So thanks for watching today. We'll see you tomorrow and try and get through the rest of this. And all right, I'm blathering again. I can't stop blathering. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey everybody, and we are back. We're over here on lesson 19, motion tracking for the first of 4 of the tracking videos here today. My goal is to try and get us down here to somewhere between 19 and 36. So that's going to be 27, I guess, is where I'm going to try and land today and get another third or fourth of this done. So, what's up today? All right, let me get my face out of here. And I'm going to come over here and bring up video 19 since we're on uh, lesson 19. That works out nicely for us. We're going to start by putting in, well, let's just play this footage first. So this footage is, we kind of saw this yesterday when we were doing the window pane, the window tint there, and how much trouble that we had to do to keep that window tint in place. So now we're going to kind of do something similar, except with a tracking version of this. So let's look at it again real quick, and we can kind of see if we stare at these windows, if there's a lot of camera movement. And we're playing back at 23, 22, 24 frames a second, so we're not doing too bad. Speed-wise, render-wise, I'm happy about that. And we got a green line right off the bat across here. When the line's green means everything is rendered and we're happy. Being happy is a good thing here with that, because sometimes some of these things we do are resource hogs, and this tracker is one of them that we're putting in right now. Okay, so over here on the tracker thing, you notice when I put that tracker in, that this also has the same arrow inputs as a merge node. So a tracker not only brings up a tracker to do one of a couple things we're going to be worried about today. The kind of tracking is called matching movements, the matching movements of the camera, because we're going to assign those movements to a little piece of artwork from Blackmagic Design, and we're going to put it up here. And because the camera and everything's moving around, we want that to go with the camera, so it gives the illusion of being steady with the shot. Okay, so let's start with getting this taken care of. What are we going to want here? We're going to want to come back to, we got our operation assigned to it. We're going to come back to trackers. And because we have 3 levels of movement here, we got the in and out, up and down kind of shaky movement, and we have some rotational movement. So they tell me that that requires 2 trackers. So let's come down here to the add button, and we just added our second tracker over here. Now our goal is to get these trackers placed up here in a corner on both sides where we can have some contrast on our split lines, and I'll show you that here. I'm just going to kind of bring it up here a little bit, and you can see that it nicely did a magnification for us. And I'm going to set my mouse on super slow here so that we can get a good line on that. Now you see where I'm trying to set these things here, where it's right on a contrast line. Same thing with over here. Let's move this guy over here and grab him by his little ear and move him up here as well. See if I got the right one. Yeah, it looks like I did. Okay, so that's looking pretty good here. And so the next thing we're going to talk about here real quick is these 4 or 5 buttons over here. When we tell this thing to track, this will be an automatically done thing. You'll note that my playhead is over here on 0. And so we're going to obviously use this tracker button. So it just tracks forward us. We're doing the entire clip, so may as well do that. If, for example, my playhead was over here on frame 24, then we'd use the midway just to track back or to track forward, just depending upon however you want to do it. Same thing here if you're doing an entire clip. You get the idea. All right, so without further ado, let's do our big supercomputing tracker job here. It's figuring it out, and it figured it out pretty quickly because we made it simple on it. Okay, and one of the ways that we can tell how well it did is we're down here in our tracker list, and we got to tell it that we want to look at all of the trackers. Okay, so we come over here from selected tracker to all tracker. Then you can see the 2. We're going to look at number 1 first, which is the one over here that we put up. And this is what they call a flip book. So we come down over here and we hit the play button on it. And you can see it run through all of the frames, and that thing didn't move at all. So that's a good thing. We didn't want it to move anything. That tells us we've chosen well and have done a good job. Same thing, we'll look at tracker 2. It flips through. Let me do that one more time. It looks pretty rock steady to me too. All right, so let's twirl that back up and get that out of the way. And our next goal here is we're going to add the artwork that we're eventually going to match this movement too. Oh, here's a fun thing to look at real quick too. Let me zoom in here on this. So you see this little squiggle line here right now? This is the keyframe line that the computer figured out where the camera has moved. So this is literally the track, okay? All right, pretty cool. Bring that over here in the middle so we can see everything that's going on. So now we have a base of operations to work with now. Now the computer knows what Folly, the cameraman, has done here. And you can see where this is kind of leading. This is leading to doing Steadicam stuff too. So let's come over here and let's add a new tool. And we are going to come over here to the IO and we're going to click on Loader, which gives us the ability to bring in artwork, footage, what have you, without having to mess around and go all the way over to the media tab. So let's highlight logo, click on open, and there we have it. Highlight logo, hit number 2, and there we are. We have brought in, we have tracker down here, link, which includes our media in and what we've done so far, and we come up here to the logo that we've just put in. You'll notice it no longer says loader. It brings up the name of what it is you've assigned, which could be handy down the road, and another good case for marking your stuff well. So upon this, we note it's very small. We also note that this is a different domain / resolution than our tracker down here. 1920 by 1080 is what this came in as from. Remember, in here in Fusion, everything is we're working with the raw footage here. So whatever this was brought into, it doesn't have anything to do with the media over here. If we look at the media over here, you got to kind of go over to File and down to Project Settings to see that, yeah, this is indeed what we have set the project settings, but it's a coincidence that the footage that we brought in here happened to be that as well. So let's cancel out of this and get back over to Fusion. And that's important because we got to tell this here. Well, first we got to assign it to the tracker, okay? And so let's come down here and bring it into the foreground, okay? Remember we said that we got our tracker node. It works just exactly like a merge node and has all 3 of the inputs. Okay, good to remember. I'm probably harping on this too much, but let's bring in our next node. And our next node is going to be a transform node because we need to be able to move this around and we need to be able to hook it up to need to be able to hook this logo up with this tracker, and we do that through the transform node. So now that we're in the transform node, we have all the stuff that allows us to move this around. You'll note that this is directly, it shares a path. So the transform node is hooked directly up to whatever this does is controlled by this right now. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is the center of this. We want to bring to the center of our tracker, and we can do that by coming up here and right-clicking on Center X, which applies to both X and Y, obviously. We come down to Connect to Tracker 1, and we say Unsteady Position. So we're just telling this little part here of our tracker to now be matched to the center of the tracker information that we figured out. So the next thing we have to do is the size of it. Uh, as we came in and out, the camera was moving forward and backwards too. So right click on size, down to connect to, tracker, unsteady size. Okay. Last but not least, angle, connect to, tracker 1, unsteady angle. And the angle is the Australian's version of rotation here. Angle is the little dotted line. So we now have a pretty good idea what's going to happen. So we should be able to come over here to the tracker and play this, and this should be relatively steadier, but we're not done yet by any stretch of the imagination here. So let's play it and see how far off we really are. Okay, we're almost at full blast here. I have it set for 24 frames a second. So we're coming in pretty quick. So it's certainly better than it's matching the camera movement to a point, but we have some side to side movement, and that's caused from the fact that the footage and the logo are two different sizes, and that's what gets fixed next. Big deep breath again, because this just never seems to stop, does it? This is a really long one. So in the middle here, on our way out, we want to be able to affect these two nodes. So we're going to affect it on the way down to the tracker, right? And we're going to come up here, and we're going to add a tool, and we're going to add a transform tool. And so remember yesterday when we were talking about there's a couple ways to resize things. One is resize, but it put it back to a whole thing. I mean, it took that whole picture and recentered it and did all the hard work and all that stuff for it. But we don't want to do that here. We just want to get it the same size because we want to be able to move that little piece of artwork around. So that little piece of artwork is going to stay the same size relative to the new resolution. Does that make any sense? So rather than using resize, we're going to use crop. And we're going to come up here and we got crop highlighted right now. And we can look at crop there, and we can come bring the crop down a little bit. We can now see that crop matches 1920 by 1080, which is what our path is over here. Okay. And so we don't have to type in anything. It just did it for us. We were lucky. We didn't have to mess around with anything. So we also got this little guy down here in the corner now that we're going to be able to control with the X and Y offsets. So let's have a look at that in the tracker. Okay, let's have a look and see how everything's going here. Oops. So we now have we're now looking at our cropped piece of artwork here. We are, it's looking good. Let's play it and see if that solved our problem with the rest of the movement. And it kind of seems to have. It's not great, but it's way better than it was. There's a lot of camera movement here. So I'm going to kill that for the moment, bring it back over. Okay. I don't know what's up with that, but I'm not going to worry about it for right now here. So let's twirl that back up. So let's do this. Let's go back up to crop. Let's put on our sensitive mouse tool here, and we'll move this up to this window pane. Down here, the Y offset. You notice it's kind of snapping a little bit. That's funny. I don't know what it's snapping to, but all right, that's pretty centered. Let's play it on the tracker. So for the most part, especially we can really see this now because we're at a distance, and uh, let me try zooming in on this a little bit and just see what it looks like when we're coming in here. So it seems to be making the same. So I don't know. It's up to us. What do we think? Is our logo making the same movements as the camera? I kind of seem to think that there's not a lot of space that's changing between the borders of the windows and the borders of our little logo that we put in there. There's one last thing that we can do. Tracker has, let's come down here to our secret. Remember our secret spot down here, uh, where we right click here next to the return line there, the return loop play, and we see that we have our high quality motion blur still going, which is kind of cool that my computer is fast enough to keep up with all this. On the lesson itself, theirs wasn't. So we got motion blur on. So let's go over here to settings on tracker, and we can come down here to tracker and put the motion blur on there too, which is going to add some more math to do. And then come out. Let's twirl the inspector all the way up and out. And maybe zoom out and center. Zoom back in a little bit. So what are we looking at here? We're noticing the movement of the camera, but we're noticing how the Blackmagic design logo stays with the movement of the camera in relation to the rest of the thing. So you can do that easily, like I said, by kind of keeping an eye on the distance of the daylight you're seeing around it. So let's give it one more play, and then we'll call it good. It's kind of hard to tell with this short of a clip, and the part of the jerk that we're getting here is when it goes all the way in and comes back. That's the biggest jerk we get here. It's unfortunate that this clip wasn't, say, 5 seconds where we'd really be able to get a nice look at this. Okay, so that was a long one, guys, and I apologize for that, but this was just kind of an intricate thing, and this is how I learn. Every time I talk to you, and it takes me some time to get through this. What was 10 minutes of video took me almost 2 hours to get through from start to finish of viewing it to learning it to turning it into a video. Anyway, just kind of thought I'd throw that out there so you can appreciate the effort that goes into it. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next one, which will be, guess what? More tracking. See you soon. Okay, guys, and we're back here with lesson 20. Here we're stabilizing and tracking a mask. So we're going to do the mask tracking thing first. And just let me get my mug out of here and bring up the computer only. And we are all set here at video 20. And we got our tracker and everything's all done and set up, as you can see. So the first thing we're going to want to do is, since we have two goals today with this lesson, we're going to put up a mask over one of these windows here. It's just like another blue piece over it, so you can kind of see what's happening. It's not a very good piece of production, but it is a good demonstration. So let's start with our mask, getting that going here. Come over to mask, and we're going to use a rectangle, and we're just going to bring this together, and then let's find a window to block out that doesn't have much anything in it. And this looks like a likely likely target here. You see how that kind of came off angle there for me? You can just come right down here and click on that, and it'll put it right back up for me. So bring down that size there. Let me just zoom in on that real quick and see how that looks. Not bad, not bad. We're just kind of doing it blindly. Okay, so we got our window up and ready to go here. And what's the next thing we're going to do? We're going to need to hook that up to the tracker somehow, but we can't really do it right here. I mean, we have our width and our angle and all that stuff, and but it's not a good idea to do that through here. I guess it creates a lot of crossing over problems. So let's go and get another transformation to a transform tool. Whoops, excuse me. Down here, transform. Okay, see how we're doing over here. Here we can see that guy. Okay, so we're going to have to maybe invert this because the black is everything that we want taken out, and the white is what we can see. Uh, so do we want the window taken out or do we want to see it? I don't know. I'm going to leave it like this for the moment. And then let's come over here and hook up to our transformation tool. Oops, we don't want to do that. We want to hook up to the... Really? Okay, whatever. I haven't seen it do that before. We don't want that one. Yeah, there we go. Transform tool. Okay, so here we are at our transform tool. So we do have, this is the right place to come over here and right click on the center, connect to our tracker down to an unsteady position. And we're going to do the same thing with the size. Since we know how this moves, it's unsteady size. And then we're going to do the last one with the angle, right click, connect to tracker, unsteady angle. So we got her hooked up now for, let's play it real quick and see if it's moving with everything like it's supposed to. Maybe over here is where we should be. And it looks like it is. Let's control, maybe make that a little bit smaller. There we go. That's a good workspace. Okay, it seems to be moving pretty good right along there with everything else. Okay, so let's catch that, return our playhead. So what do we got next? We got a merge tab coming up next because we need to get the picture in, and then we're going to put a background in. So let's do the merge tab first. Over here, add mask, composite, over to merge, clink. And so what is this part going to be? This part's just going to be the standard hookup right here. Whoops, excuse me. Okay. Let's maybe move our tracker out of the way so we can see what we're doing here. And then let's come over here and put a background in. Add a tool. Generator, background. And you see now when we hit this merge over here, we can kind of see what's happening. Our rectangles over there, our transformation thing. So we're starting to make ourselves a little circuit here. So what do we need to do here now? We need to hook our transform to the blue tag over here. Whoops, we don't want to do that. Over here to the blue one. Chink. Okay. Maybe I should try and move that up so we can see a little better. Okay. And then now we'll do our background over here. Just come over here, pick a color. Any color is fine. That's a nice little blue. Maybe we should make it a little more obvious. Just say OK. Then we're going to come over here and just connect the background over here, oddly enough, to the background endpoint for merge. And so there's our rectangle. You know what? I think it needs a little attention. So let's go over here and click on the rectangle and fix our artwork a little bit. So we didn't get that as good as I would have hoped. Let's zoom in. Control zoom. Bring that down a little bit. There, that's looking better. Zoom out. There we go. That looks pretty good. So let's unclick on this, unclick on this down here, take that away, and play it and see how we're doing. So that window covering is moving really nicely with that. So that's the first part of this program here. The second part of this program here is we're going to stabilize the image. And so we don't really need to mess with any of this stuff right now. So what let's do is let's highlight everything and just scoot it over here out of the way. Let's just have a look at it on the media out. Click everything media out. Yeah, that's hanging in there great. Okay, so next one. Let's stop this so we don't gonna crash everything here. So the next thing we're going to do to just stabilize the whole picture, instead of trying to work around this goopy camera problems, let's just do this. Let's make a transformation tab here, and go over here to center, right click, connect to tracker one. Okay, so this time instead of saying unsteady position, we're going to say steady position. Okay. The same thing with size. Down to connect to tracker one, steady size. Last one, connect to tracker one, steady angle. And I think that we can connect this guy here, clink, and get an output on that here. Okay, so it's worth noting that, let's play this real quick and see what's happening here. Okay, so if we look around the edges here, on the top and on the side here, whenever something gets has to be studied, whenever any kind of footage, whether it's in a camera, whether it's in software like we are here now, it's got to take that motion from somewhere. So it crops out a little bit in order to have the room to make a steady picture. So when it's cropped out, it has some room for the whole thing to move, and obviously creates a little bit of something that needs to be repaired here. So let's do that. We're going to do another transformation tool. I wish I had a hotkey for the transform tool on my keyboard. Maybe I'll make one. That would be a lot of fun. So let's connect these guys up. Clink. Come over here to this transform tool. And come over here to the size. And I'm just going to add a 1.05 to the size, like he did there, and then click enter. So that supposedly is supposed to take care of it. And I'm still getting some. And it didn't. Let's try. Getting closer. Okay. So let's go look at the whole thing on the media out. So I'm still bouncing around here with some size issues. Let's come out, transform. Okay. Play. Looks like it just the computer needed a little time to render that up. I'm going to try something here. And I'm going to stop this and go back to what he did in the book, which is 1.05. Bring that back in and give that a couple of seconds to dial in here. Have a look at that and then play it to see if we did solve it. Okay, that's cool. So we bought ourselves just a little tiny bit more of the whole screen because what was happening was his shoes were going away. But that's not to be said that, well, we really didn't have the room to move him up or her up, whatever the case may be here. And so I guess that's it for now. This has been what this is starting to look to me like is it's looking like printed circuitry here, and it is kind of just exactly that, where everything is routed like a circuit would be, like an electronic circuit would be, and somehow that works in my head because of some of the background I have. And we wind up here at the end media with the right one is media out, and when we're on a big tool like that or a big screen like this, the right one's media out, left one is media in. That's why you can't see that. If we were over here at media in, maybe, but that's not what we want to be doing here. So that would be on the media out. That would be the next thing that we would see over in color. Okay, well, again, thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate you, and we will see you in the next one. All right. All right, and we're back one more time today with lesson 21, which is called corner pin tracking. And I have, in an effort to be a little bit more efficient, I've kind of pre-set up our layout here. I'm gonna make this just a touch bigger so we can kind of see everything. Right now, what you see is what the blank screen would have been. You'll notice that everything here is blacked out, and so we know where everything is right now. So I just figured, just for expedience point, we would go through that, and we'll start with tracker. This guy here. We'll come up and we'll turn it on. And we'll note that we've come over here to the operation. And on the operations, remember in the past we were going down to match move. This one's going to call corner positioning or the corner pin program. And so what we did with that was, let me make this a little bit smaller up here. This turns up looking like a four of those little the little tracker boxes that are surrounded by rubber bands. So you place each of the tracker boxes on a corner here. But when I did it down here, the little box came up red. So I had to play around and find another place for the box to come in and be able to get a good anchor. And then we scanned it, and it came up with this area here. At which point we went ahead and went to the I/O and entered what do they call that? Where we brought in another screen, and I/O. It's a loader. There we go. Thank you. Sorry, still learning all the stuff here. So let's turn our loader on. And so all that did was, we went to where it was stored. We said yes, and then that brought our loader in. So, and then at which point we came back down here to the tracker, and we had to find out what position. You see, where it's actually, it only tracked to position 3, so we had to go over down here on our tracker and say show all trackers, and we had to open up position 3 and use these XY offsets to move that corner down. So all of the data points have been done. All we did was create an area for this place to be in. Okay. So the next thing we did after that is we came over here and brought in a chroma key, which is the first time that we've done that. And I'm just going to turn this off, or we can come up here and see the second side of this. Excuse me. So this is the chroma key thing, and we just came down here and twirled down the color range. We made a marquee on here. We played around with the luminance of the color range, and it When it was done, it created a out area. Okay. And this area here, we just basically took all the green out of it and made it an invisible area here. So that point, we came over here to the polygon guy. We'll turn him on, and we just made a little mask. Polygon really means mask. That's just one of the types of masks here, right? And then we didn't really have to do much to that other than lastly, we brought in a merge thing. We brought in a merge node. And so uh, background, foreground. So the tracker and the picture are obviously the background. And then the foreground is the area out, which we've keyed out to get over her hands. And so let's come down here to that guy and just hit number 2. I should bring that in. So let's turn our merge on, and that will bring her fingers to the top because it's keyed out. Okay. And then over here, we just took care of media out. This was much more complicated than it actually was here, where it took me a couple of times to watch the thing. But when I actually did it, I just did it all in one fell swoop, and I just thought I'd save us a little time here because this is starting to repeat itself with merges and the keys and all this good stuff. So there's a pretty decent picture of what it looks like in the ending, and let's run it to see if it's worth its salt. It's very short. It's only like 12 frames long, so not bad. I'm especially impressed with the key that I got the details of her finger. All right, enough of that. I'm sure that you appreciate that this was a nice short one here, and we'll see you in the next one. I think we have. What do we have? Do we have one more? We have one more. Corner pin, 3D camera tracking, and then we're done with tracking for a while. There's lunar masks and things like that, but we got through a lot of this tracking here, but that is nothing compared to what's left here. And next week there's a couple of specialized tracking things. One of the tracking was in the beauty thing where he fixes up some nice young lady's face, and then the fixes travel along with her. Anyway, enough comedy jokes from me for now. We will see you in the next one. Thank you. Okay, and we're back with an explanation here. After watching lesson 22 with the 3D camera tracking, he literally ended the lesson with the phrase, before you attempt any 3D camera tracking, you must have mastered the 3D environment. And so that I watched through this and it was so above and beyond my head or what to do with operating in a true 3D space. Should have been a separate set of videos altogether. I don't know what they're doing in here. Um, they're not even a legitimate part of the 2D fusion thing. It's a completely separate thing. So maybe in the future I might mess around with that. I hope I do. But this will negate us screwing around with lesson 22, and it will also negate us screwing around with lesson 32 and 33 are all 3D image space. And we will be moving on here to chroma keying. And so I got to go figure out where all that stuff's at and get us going on our next thing. At any rate, thanks for hanging in there with me. I'll be right back with chroma keying, and we'll see you in a second. Okay, here we are once again on lesson 23, and we're starting a new kind of turning over a new green leaf. Guess what we're doing? That's right, chroma keying. And I've just been through this a few times from the lessons, and this is the darndest way I've ever seen of doing chroma keying. But they call this an ultra key. So let's see if I can get this to duplicate well for you guys again. So let me get my face out of here and get us into some work. Okay, so the first thing they did here is they're trying to hide a set of lights behind this board here, and we're gonna this stage over here is a single frame of a series of frames, the first of which matches this scene here perfectly, and it's called the clean plate. And we're going to merge these two, and then this one is the media in, or the first media in, rather. And so we got to, the first thing we need to add a merge to this guy. Composite, merge, boom. So the media in is going to be the foreground. That's green. Media, the clean plate is going to be the background. That's right there. So the first thing we got to do is we got to make a mask around the little Jack Russell Terrier here. So we don't have anything to do in merge. We can just click off of that for now. Just make sure I stay in the right view of things. So let's get over here to, well, first let's bring this out because we got other stuff to go in there. And we're going to come right up here. We're going to say add tool. We're going to say let's make a mask. And we're going to make a polygon mask around Poochie here. Starting with that, to that. I only know exactly where this goes because I've done it so many times now. That. Maybe we'll pull that out a little bit. Move this over a touch. Square it up. Okay, so we have our mask in place here, and the idea is when I connected the polygon to the merge, bearing in mind that this is that special blue mask effect thing, which makes a merge node a merge node. So let's see what happens here. What's supposed to happen happens. I'm a little nervous. Okay. So let's go over here to the merge node. Maybe it's a polygon node. Messed it up. There's that one. There's that one. Okay, now everything's looking good here. So the first thing we got to do here on the polygon node, and let's just get rid of that green line by clicking outside of it. There we go. So we're still into the polygon node. You can tell by, it says polygon here under the inspector. So you see this kind of weird, lighter than everything else frame around it all. So we're just going to soften that edge, and that'll blend everything in like it looks like it grew there. Okay? And that'll also, it'll leave us just enough green to key out. And so that's the next thing. Is we're going to come down to media in, and we're going to come up to another tool to add over to matte. And there's a bunch of ways to add a keyer in here. And he said to use ultra keyer. So that's fine. Here we are, ultra keyer. And we got to come over here and click on background color. Move that out of the way so that we can choose well. And it took some time to get used to this because watch what happens. It says pick a screen color. Okay, that's fine. So every time I move something over here, I've got to kind of just find a color and let it settle down for a second. Every time I move it around. All right, let's try right there. All right, that wasn't too bad. Let's say okay. And we'll come down here and put the left view in on that. So we have Poochie over here. And make that a little bit up front. And so we see there's some areas here with everything that are a little bit different here in the Invisa area. So let's Hit the A key, which gives us the alpha channel. And we chose well because there's not a lot of noise in here. But they said one of the things you can do to get rid of some of that noise is to play around with the red level. Let's do that. And I just scooched it a touch. He played around with the blue background correction and things like that, but I can't see anything that needs correcting in here. Even the curtain light in is pretty nicely done. So I'm going to call that pretty decent and hit the C button to bring us back to normal, hopefully. I don't know what just happened there. What just happened there? Okay. See if we can control Z out of those two things. There we go. Okay. Color. There we go. Good. So let's zoom in on this Poochie space. This guy here is the final product. So let's zoom in on him and see. We can see that there's a little bit of a black line around him, but it's not a green line. But there is a noticeable line around him, and they told us to correct that by dropping the green just a touch. I took that hard black line out from under. It may have sharpened him up a little bit too much, but better a little too sharp than not at all. Okay, so let's zoom back out. Maybe come over here. Okay, so this is the darndest way I've ever seen it doing a chroma key, but let's drag it over here, hook our, and give that the main out. So this is our main media out node here, which is what we're seeing in this screen here. This is the clean plate, what we should be seeing over here just for fun. And let's play it. Playing pretty slow. It's looking pretty good though. We kept a lot of the shadows with doing our mask correctly. We can go up here to playback. We're on Smart Render. We could take the high quality out of it, take the motion blur out of it, see if that plays any better. Not really. Worse. Okay, well, sometimes you have to do a pre-render with some, or a post-render with some of this stuff here. I don't know what the mathematical hangup is on this, but at any rate, we got a fairly decent clean plate. Hide the studio lamp, green screen, super hoopty hula chroma key here, just for you guys. All right, that's it for me. I will see you in, what are we on, 23 now? Yeah, I'm going to do 24, which is adjusting chroma key, and then I'm going to call it a day because we have done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these over a period of almost 7 hours. Fantastic. See you in a bit. All right, it's Friday and welcome back. So it's time to talk about what's useful and what's not. So we've gotten to the bottom of this list to 24. We finished chroma keying. Very cool. And we went into the adjusting chroma keys lesson last night when I started watching that, and I had the realization that, oh my God, this is not just adjusting, that he's teaching us how to chroma key for cinematography, and which is outside of my skill set. I don't need that. I'm a YouTube consultant, and that will be one of the tenets of that is keeping my stuff simple and quick and taking good care of my people. So that's one of the things that fits on here. The 3D classes, which happen down here, those also fit in kind of the oh my God category. I can't imagine where this is going to fit in. I watched them and I simply don't have the vocabulary, the education for that to make any sense to me right now. And then the last category of things here, down here on this list here, working with channels and things. Working with channels was kind of a no-brainer, and working and all this stuff down here, grouping and macros and all that stuff. Again, pretty useless or pretty. I already know this, and it's way too basic to even address. And then the painting and all this other stuff with paint tools is things that we're going to address with next week. Introduction, no. Yeah, basically, so we're just down to a couple things here at this point. So we're creating Luma mask. We're going to address that next week in the beauty section. And I think we're going to address the painting stuff there in the beauty section and the Luma masks in its very own rotoscoping section. So let me jump over here to those and just show you those guys real quick. And then I'll just make this quick and easy and we'll get out of here. So here's the beauty section. A lot of this stuff I think is much more important to see in context, at least for sure. I'm going to learn it better, and I think it deserved its own week. So here we are in this, as we come down through here, more masks, paint. Remember I said that that's one of the things that was on that list that I don't want to do twice. And some more keying, non-screen background. That's going to be very cool. Because that's actually one of the handiest things I've ever seen and fits right in with doing the YouTube things, fixing something really quickly. Rotoscope, more rotoscope warping. That's one of the things that's on the list there that we're putting here onto next week. Okay, that's looking pretty good here. And then let's have a quick look at the other one, which is rotoscoping. And that's a good list too. And we're going to try and do both of these in the same week. If I can't get them done in the same week, I don't know what to do. But a lot of this stuff we will already have had a run at and should be able to get through pretty nicely. And I'm not going to include the stuff that we've already done, obviously, unless it builds. So window tracking, that was cool. We've done that. Masking, if you've done that. Rotoscoping, kind of done that, but I have a feeling that these rotoscoping stuff from about here down are going to be some more next level. Again, here's that Luma mask technique that we skipped over in order to see that used more in context. So that's kind of the name of that tune. And yeah, so I think we've had a pretty good week. I've learned an awful lot. And I'm sorry about all these long video here for this week. I'm working on paring down my my speech, and I'm also, I don't know if you've noticed, I don't script anything. I'm trying to be able to run and gun, take in some information, process it in my head, and put it right in front of the camera. That's also one of the main goals of this class and why I do this with a camera instead of with writing about everything. You know, if you're going to be in a writing class, you turn in a paper. If you're going to be in a video class, better be turning in a video, right? Okay, thank you very much. You have a good weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, so here we are, getting ready to do the making of week 6 with DaVinci Fusion here. So let's get after it, get started. I hope that picture of me up in the upper right-hand corner isn't going to mess us up too much. So let's make us a new project. Let's just call it week 6 for now. My usual typing prowess. Never-ending problems. Ah! Ah! All right, let's also log that in. Make a copy of that. Create. So, media pool, what's our favorite thing to do? Well, we come over to our desktop and, oh my God, there's everything right there. So let's hit this up, Control A, drag it in. We don't want to change anything because we already have our product rate all set. So before we do anything, because we're going to be doing some color grading along the way here, and it's going to be posted to YouTube. So what did we have to do? We needed to go down to project settings and make sure that everything was cool over here. 2376, that's fine. Color management. So We are in SDR Rec 709 and Rec 709A as the output. Bearing in mind the reason we were doing that was because it comes out much better when we post it to one of the platforms. Okay, looking pretty good here to get started out. So the one other thing we got to do is we got to come over here and make us a timeline. We have 20 clips today. Woo! And we're going to see some getting through some business here. Let's come up here and create a new timeline. I'm just going to call it Control C or Control V. We create Fusion V1. Just in case I screw that up and I require a V2. All right, great. Let's jump over here. Start with our signage. Titles. What's the scroll look like? Okay, I'm in with that. Let's move this over to here. Come back here, and the easy way to set that back, clink, is just to highlight everything, grab a hold of it, and move it back. And when we come up here into the, see, all we did, what I did was I put my playhead right there, highlighted all the clips, and then just moved it back to make room for our title. Very cool, huh? All right, speaking of titles, let's get that work done. Over here to our inspector. What are we going to call this week? How about we call this DaVinci BFX? Yeah, I just can't seem to get through any of these without having some kind of error. And I don't know if you noticed that or not just then that my Grammarly just came up and fixed the word Da Vinci. So let's do something a little cooler with this for a change. So let's find a font that's different. That's kind of interesting. My favorite impact there. I think we've used that before. Huh, how about a little computer-esque-ish there? Very nice. And semi-light. Size is about right. How about a background? Interesting. Didn't do a darn thing. Okay, well, I think what we're going to do for now is just maybe pick a color over here for that, something different. I was kind of feeling a little bit of a color for a shadow, maybe, yeah, a little darker orange. Bring that down, come on. Offset that a little bit, see if it works or not. Our opacity up. All right, that's kind of cool. And let's see how, let's run it and see how it looks. That'll do. That'll do for now. Just something to play around with. All right, it's time to put on our trim and start with our, maybe we should do this. Let's come over here for a minute and come to this. And just for fun, I'm going to put the keyboard in here too. Up here. You guys can kind of see how that's doing. Down here. Top cam. Transform. There we go. Maybe that makes a little more sense. I'm going to maybe make that a little smaller. Put it over there in the corner a little bit better. Because most of the action is going to be happening down here. All right, let's close that off. Maybe have one more quick look at that top cam. Bigger video. There we go. All right. Okay. So just I'm going to kind of do, because since we haven't done this in a little bit, I thought and this is something I keep harping on. I at least wanted you to be able to see that I was using this and keep us out of the way we best we can, because I'm about to do a world record time on this here for getting through stuff. Starting here with, we're in trim now, right here. Important thing, and let's start it in. And we're going to need to get out of that. Over to here. And bring it in. Quick play. Okay, as a testament. Back. Are we snapping? We're snapping. Cross dissolve in. Okay, as a testament. Not bad. Moving on. Remember down arrow? Next one. So about here and about here. Give it a quick play. We'll see you in the next one. Okay. Okay, here we are back. All right, down arrow. Here. Since we're right there. Quick play. In the next one. Okay, we're back up. Nice. Down arrow. Trim in. Trim out. Transform. Check the playback. Next one. Thank you. Okay, so we're shirt change. Down we go. Trim in. Trim out. Dissolve. In the next one. Okay, so down we go. Trim in. Trim out. I want to hear that before I put the dissolve on. In just a minute. All right, bye. Yeah, let's trim over that. And I'll see you in just a minute. Okay, so yeah, I'm good. Okay, trim in. Trim out. Test it. For watching. See you in a sec. So pretty good. Cross dissolve. See that one more time. For watching. See you in a sec. So here we are. Okay. Next one. Trim in. Trim out. Check that out. Looking forward to it. Thanks again. Okay, there's some time there. Try that again. Trim out. Tighten that up a little bit. Looking forward to it. Thanks again. Okay, everybody. Cross dissolve. Okay, next one. So trim in. Been sick of me saying that, I bet. Trim out. I think we're starting to get our handles timed a little better with the camera. Watching? See you in a bit. Okay. Looking good. Little cross dissolve there. Trim in. Trim out. Back, give it a quick play. And we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Okay, well, good enough. Starting to get our timing down now. Trim in. Trim out. Put check on the next video. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Okay. Do the transition. So I get suspect of these lines down here when you see me doing masks. All right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you watching. Okay, so I guess it's okay, but when I see the low sound down here, I know that my microphone is set perfectly, so I don't have to mess with my sound very much. Not that we're not going to check it here after I get done doing the basic edit, but when I see some weird things like that, I just kind of want to hear it and make sure that it didn't turn out badly or I've made some kind of weird mistake. Or I catch some weird gap at the end. I get uncomfortable at the end. In the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. All right. All right. All right. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. All right. Okay, so a lot of those, I got my face out of the way of this, I guess. So it's it's always the same ending with just the screen anymore on these. I'm curious. Let's play that. Why is my... I can't stop blathering. Talk to you later. Bye. Blathering. So thanks for watching today. We'll see you tomorrow and try and get through the rest of this. And all right, I'm blathering again. I can't stop blathering. Talk to you later. Bye. Right. Little tiny trim this time. And a little tinier trim this time. Give it a listen. More tracking. See you soon. Okay. All right. I think we can twirl this up, get it out of the way. Maybe bring this down a little bit here, or not. Okay. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Okay. In the next one. Thank you. And we're back with an explanation here. Okay, so I think I forgot to do something here. Render cache to smart render. Can't forget to do that. Let's kind of see that now. That's when we spin back over to have this. And thank you. Okay. When we see the red or blue, ideally we see green here. Whenever we put a dissolve or we do any kind of fusion stuff or lettering or whatever into this, it gives the computer some math to chew on. And so having this do the quick render thing there or the smart render thing there just makes life a little easier for looking at it to make sure that fade and transition is kind of up to our little standards. At the very least, it looks like the rest of them, even if I have screwed it up. Thank you. Okay, and we're continuity. One more time. Thank you. Okay, and we're nice. In. Count. Give it a check. And we'll see you in a second. Okay, here. Okay. Fantastic. See you in a bit. Oh. All right. We must be getting towards the end here. Because this is my conversation about moving along and not repeating our work. There's that thing, and then I dial over it. Oh, yeah. Now we're rendered. All right. Let's get to the end here. Let's trim that out. Leave a little room for a. There we go. And then we got a sign here coming up here. What should we do? Should we do the same scroll? Basic title. That's not very much fun. I have an idea for something. I may even go back and do the first one too. I don't want to glitch. I don't want to fade either. That's too easy to do by hand. We've done that a few times. Flip over lower thirds. You know what? I really like this one. Let's do something special with this. Let's bring that in over here. I don't know where it went. Don't need 3 tracks. We just need to keep track of what we're doing. All right, let's next one. Very much. You have a good weekend, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay. Okay, inspector. Let's see what we can do. So we got the sample upper, and that's going to be DaVinci. See if I can get through one thing of typing. Of course not. DaVinci VFX. And our lower one here, type Fusion. All right, let's twirl that up, see how that looks. Play around. In the next one. So I wonder if we can fix the timing of that. It's rendered. I got a blue screen here. Seems to dive off really fast. I don't know if there's a way to fix that in the inspector or not. Line color. Put my favorite green in here. Kink. Okay, I'm going to come out a little bit more and see if that solves my... It still dives out really quickly. Let's... 3822. There's 6 seconds there. 4501. That's close enough. Let's... Give it a chance to render here. There we go. All right, so while we're fooling around with that, let's go back here up to the front and look at some things. Let's get Mr. Inspector out of the way here. Let's go over to, let's see how far off our clips are. Let's get that out of the way. We don't need the LUTs. We don't need the gallery. Whoops. Don't need the gallery. Don't need that. Let's see how bad my color. Oh my God, that's not in great shape here, are we? So let's have a look at our color. We're not anywhere near white balanced at all, and there's no white in there to balance up. So let's start by raising the gain on this a little bit. Or not. Maybe let's come over here and start by dropping Mr. Red a little bit. And then come back over here and raise our ceiling a touch. Okay, remember the thing when we have, ooh, yikes, that's uglier than crap. I don't have any white on there in there at all. That's unfortunate. Maybe beyond my help here. Let's reset this and see where we are. Okay, I know this clock is white. Ran my blue up a lot. Go over here and look at our curves again. Maybe dropping that blue down a touch brings us. Okay. So according to my vector scope, we're really off the beaten path here. I might think about maybe coming towards a little bit of red. But I may be just simply undoing what I just did. get any skin tone out of this at all. So I think I'm not going to do this, but I think might be what would have been the thing here to do. Maybe it is still the thing to do, but I won't be able to put it on anywhere else. I'm so lucky I'm geometrically perfect here. Let's see about that. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. It's Tuesday, and we got through lessons 1 through 10 yesterday. I was pretty surprised we got through things that well. Today we're on 11. Well, I think out of expediency, that's not going to happen. But we can come over here and maybe look at our gain a little bit. Get us out of the basement a little bit. Bring our gain down a touch. Let's try our color boost here just a touch here to see if I can do anything with it. Eh. All right, well, let's play it along and just see how that looks. Looks terrible. And they're a little bit more complex than the simplicity of 1 through 10. So the first one of these, 11, is what we're going to talk about first, and that's working in color space. So what I thought I'd do. Okay, you know what? Blink, blink, everybody. Okay, so there's the. This is really tough to kind of color manage, but I'm getting there, I think. All right, let's come over here and see what we can do with the rest of this mess. Let's get it off the basement for starters. Let's get it out of the sky. See what kind of gamma we can do. Raise our gamma up a touch. Maybe touchy color boost, and saturation's a skin tone thing, so let's. Yikes. Okay, I'm not terribly out of love with that. So we've done a little color correction on this along the way. Am I going to go back and color correct the other 20 things? No. What I might do though is I might grab a still, put it over in the gallery, grab my clips. I don't know what I was doing all the way over there with that. Mm, let's see if I can apply the grade. Okay, we did 8. Apply grade. Nine through 20. Apply grade. Now let's kind of go back and check it. Place. Get this out of the way so we can see what's happening here. Yeah, those are all looking better. But really only in the first couple of seconds where you see me in there, and it doesn't look terrible. Let's. Because that's really the color of those walls, and I'm glad that that clock is white. You know, somewhere I'm going to stick a white piece of paper up in this room so I can at least get a white balance on things instead of having to rely upon that. I think is the answer there. Okay. So over to sound. Let's see what we got going on in here with the sound. And so all these were with microphone. My microphone has loudness control on it and a noise gate and all kinds of good stuff. So let's just play it and see what we're looking at as far as levels go. Okay, as a testament to week 6's complexity and the fusion tab here, one of the reasons I left this for last, but I'm glad I did this. This was a interesting thing. So we had to start this whole thing off with the introduction video that was less than 3 minutes long by finding the database that we downloaded in order to do everything else on here. So after about an hour of fooling around with it between the versions of it, they were doing. They click on connect. So you see the green thing up here? This tells me that the basics library is upgradable and it's not going to do anything with this data that they've gone through great trouble to construct for us until we upgrade it. So we click on that or we click down here, either way. And we Okay, so what do we know about this? We use the same microphone for all of it. My level's running a little tall. So what do I want to do? I want to drop this down just a touch at the bus level or at the track level. Go back and see where we're at. Okay, as a testament to week six's complexity and the fusion tab here, one of the reasons I left this for last, but I'm glad I did. We're looking to be for that yellow line to hit 10 or thereabouts. So we had to start this whole thing off with the introduction video that was less than 3 minutes long by finding the database that we downloaded in order to do everything else on here. So after about an hour of fooling around with it between the versions of it, they were doing it in 15, I'm doing it in 18.4. Okay. Page. One of the things he wanted us to see was footage. It's pretty much as you might think. So I'm here in video 3. Okay. Because it ordinarily would crash on me. Let me clear that. Auditing or editing my just at the track level. All right, doing well, that sounds there. Like something fun. We're making too much noise. So what I basically did is here is apparently I need to turn the gain on my microphone down at the OBS level. So I'm going to do that here before I record anything else. But what you can see how easily that's set. But what we can't see is we come over here to effects, visual effects, Fairlight FX, VST effects. What I don't have here is I don't have like I do over on my it's supposed to be over on my Mac. I have a whole bunch of super nice effects made by a company called Crumple Pop. And there's a leveler. One of them's a leveler. The two of them I use the most. One's a leveler. One's a de-echo. I use my de-noiser a lot when I'm editing my motorcycle footage. And they all work just unbelievably well. And for the most part can be, if I'm just filming something on my motorcycle, can be edited at bus level rather than clip, or not bus level, but track level rather than clip level. So the only thing I've never done here with any of these things is add any music to it. I don't know if that's a thing or not. Probably not a good idea because there's a lot of intricate things that are taking place. At any rate, so guess what? So we've been through everything here. We've been through media. We've been through our edit tab. We should probably go over here to the clip tab here really quick. And it shows us all of the timeline. And these little white lines here are all transitions. So that lets us know that we haven't missed anything here. And very nice. Okay, so that's good. Let's look at the whole thing on the edit thing that we're looking pretty good here. Let's just make real quick sure. So I've opened up our metadata tab and I just want to go over the things to make sure I don't have anything out of order when I can't read it on here. Everything looks like it's pretty much in order. 4, 5, 6. So 1, 0, 1, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07, 8, 9. As we run across 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so that was once again, there's my speech on the beauty of numbering your clips correctly at the beginning, 01 or 001 if you've got 100 or more clips, or 1,000 or more clips, 0001, because you start getting, the computer looks at it the wrong way if you don't do that. It starts messing things up in the teenagers. Okay, so I think that I can't find any mistakes so far. Our overall thing here, let's go back out of effects over to clip. Maybe we need to look at this here. Starts on time. Okay, I can't think of anything else we need to do. So let's get over here to delivery. So what's our file name? Our file name is cut and paste. Week 6 Fusion. Basics. Outstanding typing. Yeah. Where are we going to put that? I think I'm going to put that on the desktop. Just to, I don't have to chase it around anywhere. MG205, make sure we got our things the way we like them. Go into an MP4, H.264, 23.9. Yeah, having that's really a nice thing without having to mess around with that. Okay, let's go ahead and add it to the render queue and say render all. And while that's happening, I'm going to flip back over here up to this and look in the camera and say thank you very much for a great week. And I learned a lot. Sorry the video was so long, but I don't know what else to do about it. I can't seem to shut up. All right, take care.